morning, everyone, and welcome to the opening drive on 10. Everybody's disappointed in the room by my good morning.
No, I thought it was wonderful.
Matthew is just shaking his head in disgust.
What's so good about it?
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis. We're at 7 o'clock, your time check, brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Brooke Grimsley, Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker. Great to have you with us on a Monday, and we will carry the Cardinal press conference this afternoon live at 2 o'clock. A lot coming your way. Good morning, Brooke. How you doing?
Good morning. How was your weekend?
It was good. Had a lot of fun stuff. We're going to talk about 3 things we loved from the weekend coming up in about 15 minutes. We're also going to talk to Chris Kerber, the voice of your St. Louis Blues, and this is a Cardinal wall-to-wall day, and we're going to hear from John Denton, the Cardinal beat writer for MLB.com, later on in the program. He will be at the press conference. I will be at the press conference. You're going to go to the press conference?
Yes.
I already have questions written out.
Can you give me the first question? Just maybe they're listening this morning. Maybe they aren't.
Well, here's what needs to be asked right now, okay? And there's a lot. But with the response that we get here on our program and what you see on social media, which isn't necessarily indicative of the overall feeling of Cardinal Nation. But my comment would be, I would say, look, you've got the entire St. Louis media here. You have an opportunity right now to give us a commercial for your product. Tell us why people should buy tickets to your product right now.
I think that's a very fair question.
Yeah.
I based off of everything that I'm seeing, and I was reading everything this weekend from Katie Wu, who has wonderful articles right now on The Athletic, especially the one that we went over on Friday. But then Derek Gould, he also put out one yesterday where he talks to John Mosoloc. By the way, it is noted that in that article that, as we know, John Mosoloc will be returning next season in that Pobo role, and Ollie Marmol will continue to be the manager. But it's a shift in philosophy, is how John Mosoloc said it. Philosophy is such a triggering word whenever you hear that come from John Mosoloc.
You don't want to have any philosophical differences.
Can we pick a different word for 2025 as we create this new vision? Because I don't think we want to hear that anymore. More patience.
How about arbitrage?
Oh, there we go.
Possibly.
Stepping in the bucket.
No more of those 2 P words. Patience or philosophical differences. No more of the 2 P words.
Okay, fair enough.
Differences there.
The Cardinals did wrap up the season yesterday with a 6-1 win over the Giants. That's pretty inconsequential. The Cardinals finished 83-79, tied with the Cubs for second in the Central. Cardinals did win their last 4 series, and Michael McGreevy, where has he been all our lives? 8 innings, 1 run. He was fantastic. Brendan Donovan and Alec Burleson both great, 4 for 7. They drive in 5 of the 6. Now, to the news of the day. Katie Wu reporting that the Cardinals will allow Paul Goldschmidt to enter free agency, that they're going to part ways with him. Bob Nightingale reporting that the Cardinals will try to trade Sonny Gray, who's due $65 million over the next 2 years. Also from Nightingale, the Brewers are keeping a close eye on Goldschmidt. If the Cardinals opt to not bring him back, which they have, the Brewers still believe there's plenty left in the tank, and the Brewers seem to get a lot more mileage out of players than the Cardinals do. And the Cardinals will announce today a larger role, and this is through multiple reports, for Chaim Bloom. He, according to Katie Wu, will hire the next minor league director for the Cardinals, and you'd have to believe that with Mosoloc being out after 2025 and Bloom hiring that guy, that Bloom will be the next Pobo. Otherwise, why would a Pobo, why would he hire the next farm director if he's not going to be his boss?
So this is basically what Doug Armstrong did with Alexander Steen, where it says, okay, I'm still here for next season, but we're going to go ahead and introduce the person who will be taking over that role.
Right.
But Bloom has already been with the organization this season. And so my question
Steiner
is...
had 2, though.
Yes, that is very true. But I'm just saying, why not go ahead and begin this transition? If we're trying to say and state that this is, we're turning the chapter, we're going to focus on minor leagues, which we can get into all of that. I think that this is fantastic. Nobody's going to debate that you needed to supplement your minor league system, especially when you look at how little of a coaching staff that they have compared to other teams. But once again, the Cardinals put themselves in that position. Why did they think it was okay that after COVID that they didn't need to replenish those jobs? They had to have known that that would hurt their player development. And now we're back in this position with those same people, Randy. You add Chaim Bloom. I will say that. I will give credit. You're bringing in somebody with a different perspective into your organization. But at the same time, these are the same people who made those same decisions carrying on into next season. When we're starting this new chapter, it doesn't feel like a new chapter completely.
Brooke, I would say, in sports in general and for the Cardinals specifically right now, follow the money. As Katie Wu noted, the Cardinals have 5 full-time coaches, and let's just assume that those coaches make about $100,000 a year, okay? And a team like the Brewers has, 17, and the Phillies have 15. So let's assume that the Cardinals saved $1 million by not having those minor league instructors. If that is the case, which I believe to be true, is there any chance in the world that the Cardinals pay Ali Marmol $1.5 million or $2 million to not manage, or pay John Mosoloc $4 million or $5 million to not be their president of baseball operations? No. I am of the belief that if those guys are going to have contracts with the Cardinals, that they're going to work with the Cardinals, and there's no way right now that the Cardinals will pay 2 people to be doing a job where only one of them is doing it.
Yeah.
So they aren't going to pay John Mosoloc to not be the Pobo. They aren't going to pay Ali Marmol to not be the manager. Their actions speak way louder than any words possibly could.
How do you feel about the response, though? Of course, we'll find out fully what is happening today, but just based on the reporting, we know what's happening. Mm-hmm. The emphasis is not going to be on the Major League Club for next season. It's going to be focused on player development. They're going to bring back, it looks like, supplement the coaching staff in the minors to focus on player development. You mentioned Chaim Bloom will be focusing on that as well to really get the Cardinals back in great standing with that, or better standing than what they have been. How do you feel about the response?
Where did Chaim Bloom start his baseball career?
With the Tampa Bay Rays.
What have I been saying for months?
That the Cardinals are trying to turn it to the Tampa Bay Rays.
That's what I believe they are. And I believe we're headed towards probably being in the bottom 10 or 12 in payroll on a regular basis, trying to develop young players and not allowing them to get to big money here in St. Louis. I think this is going to be a dramatically different scenario for baseball than any of us have ever known in our entire lives. The Cardinals had George Kissel for years and were able to produce and turn out good young players. And then, especially with the DeWitt ownership, they've supplemented those young players by going out and trading for people like Mark McGwire first, but then getting a Holiday, getting a Roland, getting a Kyle, getting those guys. The Cardinals, back in my younger days, they developed players like Keith Hernandez and Tom Herr and Gary Templeton and Ken Reitz. They came through the system. John Denny, who won a Cy Young, Bob Forsch, and they were great at developing young talent, and even then, keeping their veteran talent around. That 70s team that I watched that never won a pennant, but they had a Hall of Famer in Ted Simmons behind the plate. They had a Hall of Famer in Lou Brock in left. They had a should-be Hall of Famer at first base in Keith Hernandez. I think now, by the time a Cardinal player gets to year 6, they'll probably move him. That would be my guess. Now, at least we know what it's going to be, right? There is no confusion about what the Cardinals are going to be, which is good. Is it ultimately good for Cardinal fans who have enjoyed having as many stars as any franchise over the years and as much winning from 2000 to 2015, as much winning as any franchise in the National League? No, it's not good for the typical person who's going to be watching the games. But this is where the Cardinals are. They have, for whatever reason, I know what it is. The price of this game has passed them by. When you see contracts like Shohei Ohtani got, or when you see a contract like Giancarlo Stanton got, or when you see a contract like even Julio Rodriguez in Seattle, Bobby Witt in Kansas City, the Cardinals aren't going there. The Cardinals are not going to have those kind of contracts. They're so risk averse to those kind of contracts that they aren't going to have them. So I really do think that where we're headed, if you want the model, study the Tampa Bay Rays over the last 20 years.
I think that will be unacceptable for a lot of the fans here. And that's just my own personal perspective. I could be completely wrong here. I think that'd be unacceptable because can we forget about the history here? Can we forget about the success that we've had here to all of a sudden go to that?
Brooke, I've used this stat a million times. Since 1909, every single game the St. Louis Cardinals have played, since 1909, that's 125 years. 125 years. Every game they've played, they've had a Hall of Famer in uniform. That's not going to be the case anymore. So, yeah, it is different. It's different for me. It's different for anybody that's older than me. It's different for you. It's different for Matthew. This is going to be something that we have never experienced in our baseball lifetimes as Cardinals fans.
Yeah, everybody feared the mighty Cardinals. They were the organization that felt like they were 2 steps ahead, that they always had homegrown players. They were also able to find talented stars and to keep them here in St. Louis. That doesn't feel like that's the case or will be the case now.
When a franchise essentially admits that they have to make a choice between the big league roster or developing kids, that's really all you need to know, isn't it? That,
yes.
Okay, we can't afford both, or we don't want to afford both. We don't want to invest in the major league team with the big money. Like the Dodgers are a different animal, but the Dodgers do a fantastic job in the international market with their teaching, with their coaching, with their young players, and then obviously bringing in veterans. The Cardinals have been a mid-market team that has most of the time acted like a big market team with their payroll in the top 12 or 13. And it appears as if the cost of business has kind of surpassed what they either desire to do or are capable of doing.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing, is that if you shift into that newer model where you have the youth movement, I think a lot of people are excited for the youth movement. We even called for that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, where it comes at the cost of cutting the payroll, like where you just mentioned there, you can only have one or the other, where, okay, well, we'll go get these coaches to help the minor league system, but that means we can't really do what you want us to do with this major league roster. I think that's the part that will be really hard for people to grapple with there.
And I'm really intrigued because Derek Gould also reported the Cardinals are unlikely to pick up the options on both Lynn and Gibson. And if they tried to trade Gray, so you've got Michaelis, Matz, McGreevy, Palante, and another young pitcher. Maybe you're looking already at Quinn Matthews. Maybe you're going to give Zach Thompson another chance. One thing they have to do, and I know this might be hard for people in the organization to hear, but they need to have better coaching at the major league level too. We talk about the minor league level, and all due respect to Dusty Springfield and Turner Ward and that gang, but right now these young players aren't good enough, and they haven't shown me enough in the last couple of years to make me believe that this team is a contender. You know what? I got to get it out of my mind. Here's one: we have to have a sea change in thought as Cardinal fans.
Yes.
They aren't trying to win. We can't think about them as trying to win. So I'm thinking, okay, how are these players going to get better? How are they going to compete? I need to get it through my thick skull that they aren't trying to compete anymore.
That's what is happening.
Yeah.
That is 100% what is happening. And you mentioned, too, I want the focus to still be on the major league level. So, of course, the Cardinals, they finished with an 83-79 record for this season, which is way better than what they did last year. And they tied with the Cubs for second place in the NL Central. You look at that just on paper and you say, wow, that's an improvement, right? Of course, you miss the playoffs, but man, that's an improvement from last year. But this is where I think that it really showcases, when we talk about run differential and why it matters at the end of the season, this showcases why it doesn't feel like they've finished tied second with the Cubs in the NL Central. The Cubs are 12th in the league at plus 70 in run differential. The Cardinals are 20th in the league at minus 52. The Brewers are 3rd in the league at plus 141. That's the story right there.
Telling statistic, no doubt about it.
Because then that really tells the story of what you saw this season.
I wonder, and we've got so much time over this week, not a ton of time, but I wonder if you're Yachty and watching this, if you're Albert and watching this, if you're Mark McGwire and watching this, if you're Adam Wainwright, Chris Carpenter watching this, how sad must you be? Tony La Russa, if you're one of those people who built a mini dynasty, won a couple of world championships, went to 4 World Series, played great ball for such a long time. How sad must this be for them?
Yes, it is really sad to see what it once was and what it's turning into. And even for the fans, though, think about the 3 million that come through the gate who dedicate their time, their energy every single season. And they make it a family tradition, a tradition with their friends, anything like that. And I feel like that's a slap in the face, too. They're spending their hard-earned money to come through and dedicate their time and support this team. And then this is the transition that you're getting.
Yeah, and I think it's... now, you had... the Cleveland Guardians had a great year this year, right? Very young team. But they've done things right in terms of developing young pitching for a long time. There might be times where the Cardinals have that really good year, But like Cleveland, is anybody picking Cleveland in the American League with the Yankees and the Astros being there? No. So I think that's the Cardinals. I think Tampa is the model. The Cardinals could win 100 games and they'll go into the postseason. Remember, Greg Amsinger for a couple of years picked the Rays to be in the World Series or win the World Series. I think that could have eventually happened with the Cardinals, that they could get that good. But are they ever going to have the oomph, the star power to be picked over the Dodgers, over the Phillies? No, it's not going to happen anymore.
No, that's it.
Yep. The Cardinal way as we knew it is dead. A couple of other things. St. Louis City SC over Sporting Kansas, 3-1. Toysert, Ulm, and Leuven all tallying on Saturday night. So congratulations to City. And despite not playing, Mizzou rises to 9th in the AP poll. What a great weekend of college football. Whew, it was fun. And next up here on 101 ESPN, we've got 3 things we love from the weekend here on 101 ESPN. It's time for 3 things we love from the weekend here on 101 ESPN. Randy and Brooke and Matthew, and Brooke has number 3. There we go.
So college football this weekend. Randy, you teased it in the last segment. It was so good. Even better than I think, and maybe this is just my opinion, better than a lot of the NFL games that we have seen early on this season. College football was must-watch TV, and I'm going to start because I have 2 games to talk about, but my first one and my number 3 for the weekend, I told you guys a few weeks ago when a lot of people were mad at Tennessee jumping over Mizzou in the AP Top 25, hey, you need to start looking at another team. That other team is Ole Miss, because Ole Miss really padded their schedule with some easy teams to really, help them in the rankings and really make their resume look good. And I don't know if you saw this weekend, but Kentucky beat Ole Miss.
I
this
saw
weekend.
that.
And I love a good upset victory. Also, I want to give a lot of credit to Mark Stoops, which pains me to give a Kentucky team and a Kentucky head coach any credit, but he's already the winningest coach in Kentucky history, but he's never enjoyed a bigger victory than that one. 2017 was the final score, beating, at the time, number 6 ranked Ole Miss, and they are really good, especially defensively. They held Georgia, what was that, to just 13 points, and then they were able to do this against Ole Miss. Kentucky deserves a lot of credit, and I love a good upset in college football.
It was a great upset in college football. I enjoyed it immensely. And I was listening. I was driving back and forth from the racetrack, the Worldwide Technology Raceway and the NHR races. And I was listening to the southern drawl of the Ole Miss, the depressed Ole Miss broadcasters. It was great.
That slow southern draw.
Yeah, it was.
I wish that Lane Kiffin would have adapted that and just Brian Kelly'd it.
Oh, that would have been great. I mean, just lean into it, right?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Brooke, my number 3 is also college football. And we all loved, and even Paul Feinbaum said, that the Alabama 41-34 win over Georgia that propelled Alabama, by the way, to number 1 in the country in the AP poll. He said that was the best SEC game in 40 years. But specifically, what I loved about that game in the weekend is 17-year-old Ryan Williams scoring a couple of touchdowns, including the incredible moves on the winning touchdown, the 75-yard touchdown catch. He's 17, and he'll end the season at 17 years old. We have a young man who is playing against men and dominating them. And these are some of the things I love about college football, is that a young guy like that, so precocious, can be as dominant as he can on national TV, playing against the big, bad Georgia Bulldogs and beating them. What a game and what a performance by Ryan Williams.
Oh, that game was insane. And when you're talking about that touchdown catch, I hope that everybody has seen it. If you haven't seen it already, just please go look it up, because it was insane, like how he just bobbled it in the air and still was able to come down with it and then run off. I was just absolutely shocked. And then when they mentioned he was 17 years old on top of that, I was like, what in the world? You're 17 and you could do that?
Unbelievable.
That game was actually my number 2, because I will add to it, though, in the way that I had a wedding.
We have to say
Number 2.
Number 2.
Number 2 for me is that game, because I don't like either one of those teams in the SEC. But at the same time, if I had to pick one team that I really didn't like, I didn't want Alabama to win. But they deserve to win because of what they were able to do there. But that game had everything you wanted, Randy. I was not expecting for Georgia to fall behind 30-7 at halftime, and then for Carson Beck to turn into Patrick Mahomes after that, and then just absolutely go on a roll. It wasn't enough, of course, as we know, as the end result. But Ryan Williams in that game was just absolutely insane. That was a must-watch game. And I was actually at a wedding, and the other part that was my favorite part of the weekend was the wedding, but also that they knew that they had to have TVs there for the reception so we could all watch.
that's pretty good. Pretty self-aware. I like that.
If you do have a wedding on a sports weekend where you have college football, anything like that, NFL on a Sunday, you have to have TVs available for the reception.
Yeah, right. That's
and
great.
I'm glad they did.
Brooke, my number 2 is my appreciation for Curtis Francois and Chris Blair and all the people over at Worldwide Technology Raceway. They had the NHR races over there this weekend. Worldwide Technology Raceway is the only track in the country that has NASCAR, that has Indy, and has NHRA. Have you ever been to an NHRA race before?
Yeah, I have.
You can feel the sound. It rumbles in your gut. And it was awesome to be over there and check it out. The speed is intoxicating, and everybody over there that was there is such a big fan and has such a great time. So just thank you to Curtis Francois and all of the people over at Worldwide Technology Raceway, not only for bringing the races to town, but doing such a great job with them as well.
They always have so many great events over there.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Number 1.
Number 1 for me is that you were able to end the season on a high note with Michael McGreevy on the mound. He gave up just 1 run in 8 innings, striking out 6. He has a sub-2 ERA to take into the offseason. I wish we would have seen him a little bit sooner, Randy. But now we're switching over to the youth movement philosophy, so we will be seeing more of him, hopefully, next year, knock on wood, as long as everything goes to plan. But Michael McGreevy, it was really exciting to see him at least come up here towards the end, get that opportunity, and he made the most of it.
So right now, as we speak, do you think that McGreevy's in the rotation? Let's presume that neither option for Lynn or Gibby is picked up and they move Sonny Gray. So you've got Michaelis, Matz, Palante, McGreevy in the rotation?
Yes.
I agree. I think so.
Maybe Quinn Matthews if he's
Quinn
ready
Matthews,
to go.
Gordon Graceffo, Zach Thompson. There's multiple different directions you could go there. Or you might not be able to move Sonny Gray. There might not be the interest in a 35-year-old who had a year of decline this year. Not bad, but he just wasn't as good as he was the year before. Do you want to spend, if you're another team, depending on what the Cardinals want in terms of finances, do you want to spend $20 million a year on Sonny Gray, or do you think you can do better than that? I would think a $20 million a year Sonny Gray for a team like Cincinnati would probably be pretty good.
Eric Fetty.
Oh, Fetty, yeah, I forgot about Fetty Chene. So yeah, there you go. That's her.
And he's $7.5 million next year.
Yeah, so it's bargain. Brooke, one of my favorite things, if not my favorite thing about our job, is that we have a platform to do things for people. And there's a young man in St. Louis named Anders, whose favorite football player is Trevor Lawrence. And his dad said, hey, can you help me get down on the sidelines? We're going to Houston for the Jags-Texans game. Can you see if you can help me get down on the sideline for that game? So I went through some channels here in town and with the Jaguars, and thanks to Mark Lamping, the president of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Shad Khan, their owner. But Anders was able to get down on the field for the Jaguars yesterday before the Texans game.
Awesome.
And I got a text, a picture from his dad who said, met a ton of Jags players and got tons of autographs and pictures. This may be the best day of his life, according to Anders.
That's
that
amazing.
is so cool that you can have the opportunity. We're so lucky to contribute to the best day of an 11-year-old's life. Pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so
that is great that you helped set that up.
I would love to do it, and too bad that the Jags took it on the chin yesterday. They're kind of scuffling, but
yeah.
I'm sure that Anders will remember getting the autographs and being right next to Trevor Lawrence.
That's a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Yeah.
To be able to go on the field and experience that with the players,
yeah, pretty
that's
cool.
amazing.
Yeah. That's three things we love from the weekend here on 101 ESPN. Coming up, with the Cardinals reportedly moving on from Goldie, what other players would it make sense to move on from? That's next on 101 ESPN. Hey, guys, I want you to feel your best. And one great way to feel your best is by learning about mentality at lowtusa.com. If you're a guy that is older than 30, I want you to join thousands of St. Louis guys who are feeling better because of mentality. What does mentality do, you ask? Well, mentality is a company with an FDA-approved testosterone supplemental treatment that will allow you to regain energy that you used to have. Used to be able to get through a bike ride, used to be able to get through a workout, used to be able to get through coaching your kids at night, and now you're coming home and sitting on the couch and crashing. Well, that can be a product of low T, and low T can be solved. At Mentality, you go by one of their clinics, either in Chesterfield or in South County, and they're going to do a complete panel of your blood work, find out where your testosterone level is, and then restore it with that treatment that we're talking about. You go in every week, and you get a treatment, and you'll start to feel better and better and better. Learn more at lowtusa.com. They're going to work with your insurance company to get your out-of-pocket expenses as low as possible and get that energy level back. Start with Mentality at lowtusa.com.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Cardinals close out the 2024 season, finishing 83-79 with a 6-1 victory over the Giants. But, of course, the real season starts today, as the Cardinals will have a press conference at 2 p.m., and we will broadcast that live here on 101 ESPN. That will be the start of the Fast Lane again at 2 p.m. And speaking of 101 ESPN, you can catch some Monday Night Football tonight, Seahawks and Lions, right here on 101 ESPN. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
The great Katie Wu at The Athletic reporting yesterday that the Cardinals have decided to part ways with Paul Goldschmidt. The former MVP, 37-year-old, is going to enter free agency, and the Cardinals will allow him to do so. And with the Cardinals' apparent new approach to concentrate on building their minor league system, it would seem as if their chances of winning divisions and the World Series are probably secondary for the next couple of years. So the question then is begged, who would it make sense to move on from in addition to Paul Goldschmidt? It seems pretty clear that Andrew Kittredge and Keenan Middleton will not be back to start.
Yeah,
and Lance Lynn, I think, right?
Yes, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, as you mentioned, Kittredge. And then there's the obvious ones, too, of, as you mentioned, Paul Goldschmidt. Now, as for some of the other players... Marp, of course, too. I forgot about that one. I think there will be more players that maybe they look at, especially if you're taking this youth movement approach with your big league roster. Would maybe even a Nolan Arenado be in this conversation? A Wilson Contreras, because I think about just a week ago, remember Wilson Contreras, when they were in their last homestand, he kind of called out the front office when he said 1 through 9, there's a lot of holes in this lineup, that there's a lot of work that this front office needs to do. And they are working on things, but more on the minor league side. I wonder what his feelings will be about the fact that the major league roster will not be really the part of emphasis now for this next coming season.
Here's the thing with those two. Arenado, to start with him, is due from the Cardinals because the Rockies are paying $5 million a year in each of the next 2 years. But the Cardinals will owe Arenado $27 million next year and $22 million in 2026. And then at the age of 36, they'll owe him $15 million in 2027. At his age, and with the precipitous decline in his offensive numbers over the last 2 years, will another team, even if the Cardinals would be willing to pay half of that salary, would another team take on Nolan Arenado for $13 million, $12 million, so that they can have him on their roster. I wonder if at this stage, if the return on investment for a guy like Nolan Arenado would be worth it. He was great defensively this year, and he says he's going to do things to get back to where he was, but we haven't seen it now, Brooke, for 2 years. So if I'm a team that is looking for a productive third baseman, I don't know that I want to spend that kind of money. And I don't know, by the way, if the Cardinals would want to give half of his salary to somebody else to just get him off their roster.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it when you're talking about money and you break it down in that way. I just think that when you're talking about we're moving on from these stars, if they will be a part of that conversation too. And then you look at some of the other players. Will they make some other moves? Because you still have some log jams, even if you're moving on from Paul Goldschmidt. Who will be your first baseman?
I think you're looking at Walker getting an opportunity there. Burleson probably the favorite. Lucan Baker may get an opportunity at first base. The Cardinals, I would guess.
Yvonne Herrera?
Yep, that could be another possibility. Or perhaps Contreras. Now, Wilson is due $18 million next year. $18 million in 2026, $18 million in 2027, then a team option, which will not be picked up, but a $5 million buyout for 2028. So 36, 46, 56, you're looking at $54 million for him over the course of the next 3 seasons. Again, this is a guy, and we like Wilson in this room. We think he's a good player and a good guy, but he was available at the deadline from the Cubs in 2022, and nobody picked him up because they were concerned about his catching ability. So my question would be, again, is another franchise, if they wouldn't trade for him as a rental, are they going to give up any value for him, or are they going to give up money for him to have him for the next 3 years, even if it's half the cost at $9 million a year, Matthew?
And based on the free agency market, after no one went after him in the trade deadline, they overpaid him. Based on what all the projections were of what it was going to take to actually sign him, it seems like the Cardinals gave him a bigger contract than what everyone else wanted to at the time. So,
and he was 31 rather than 33.
And now he has continued to hit very well. And I would argue that his catching numbers have stabilized. They haven't fallen off the last couple of years. So maybe teams would think, okay, we can buy into that now at that price. With the fact that payroll is always going up. So maybe it's not any less attractive than it was, but it's certainly not more attractive than it was 2 years ago.
I do believe that Wilson Contreras, I don't think, even with what he said last week, I don't think that he would ever be a bad influence in a room. I think you do need somebody to help with the culture when you have all young players, and I think Wilson Contreras would be a good guy to have around.
He's very passionate, and he's very well respected in that room.
So let's look at this then. Goldschmidt, Carpenter, Middleton, Kittredge, Derek Gould reporting that it's likely the Cardinals will part ways with both Gibson and Lynn. Anybody else? So can we agree that it's going to be...
Do they keep Steven Matz? Do they keep Miles Michaelis? Do they also try to move on from those contracts?
Again, I think it's going to be hard. Matz might be easier, although he was hurt, has been hurt basically for 2 years. I think it's going to be hard to move on from that Miles Michaelis contract. I just don't see another team choosing that over what they might be able to get in free agency. And at this point, I think the teams would probably rather roll the dice on somebody who maybe had an injured year, like a Frankie Montas, than a Miles Michaelis.
Yeah, and we're going with the younger pitchers, too, in your starting rotation. Yeah. So, and I think pitching-wise this season, that wasn't even the story of this team. It's more about offensively, so I'm trying to also piece those, different things together for next year. Do you think that with this group, all those guys, okay, you move on from Paul Goldschmidt. We'll keep Nolan Arenado here and Wilson Contreras just for the sake of this conversation. We don't know what will happen this offseason, but do you think this team still will be competitive that next year?
I think they could win 83 games again. That competitive. Okay, let's just think about the lineup. Arenado, Wynn, Donovan. Let's plug in Alec Burleson at first. Left field, Nootbaar. Center field, either Ciani or Scott. Right field, Walker. And hopefully he'll turn into the player they expect him to be. Plus, you've still got Nolan Gorman as a potential DH. Contreras. Behind the plate, you've got Pages and Herrera. So I think you've got enough hitters to be as good as you were offensively this year. And then you hope that McGreevy gets better. And then we've already kind of nailed down our rotation. If you've got Michaelis here, and even if you get rid of Gray, Michaelis, Matz, Fetty, Palante, McGreevy. And then your bullpen, you're going to have to mix and match, but you're going to have some guys down there. You'll maybe have Helsley. If you trade Helsley, maybe not an 83-win team.
Yeah.
That might be the X factor.
I think that's the key part there is what do they do with Ryan Helsley this offseason because his stock is so high right now considering what he was able to do. Imagine if he wasn't here this season, how different their record would have been.
Oh, man, yeah. And think of the Dodgers if they had Ryan Helsley.
Oh, they would love to have Ryan
If they had a
Helsley.
shutdown ninth-inning guy like that, that'd change their outlook in the postseason.
Oh, they would absolutely die for that.
Right, yeah. So there will be a market for Ryan Helsley, too. So this will be a dramatically different. I would say that even as young as this team was in 2024, we just listed off 7 players. That's 25% of your roster for next year that'll be different.
It doesn't seem like just based off the articles, and we'll have more information today that comes from the press conference, it doesn't seem like their goal, just looking at what they're focusing on for this offseason and their change of philosophy for moving forward, it doesn't feel like their goal is to be competitive next year. That's just my perspective on this.
Competitive in what realm? Like competitive for a World Series or for a division or at all?
I would say for division and making playoffs again.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I would say that the goal next year probably is to get back to 83 wins again, right? And it
has worked for them in the past in making the playoffs.
Yeah,
I just don't think that still should be the goal. That's the hard part is that I think a lot of people can accept that you will work on your minor league system. Yep. Clearly, player development has been an issue. Nobody's going to debate that you needed to focus on that. But why can't you also still be competitive at the major league level?
You should be able to. And hey, look at some of the teams that are competitive. The Kansas City Royals this year, a young, very competitive team, really good young coaching staff there. The Guardians aren't loaded with veteran talent, but had the second best record in the American League. I think there are a lot of teams out there that are doing really well. I just don't see, and this is going to go back to the Cardinals, what they're doing today. Franchises are bringing up polished young players that are ready to play at the major league level. The Cardinals haven't been doing that, and that's one of the things they're trying to fix today.
How do they fix the players at the major league level for next season? Because even though they were able to get to 83 wins, I pointed out the run differential, the big difference there. Clearly, I think that tells the story of the season and what we saw, especially offensively, situational hitting, the issues with runners in scoring position, really not having a consistent big bat for this team. What gets fixed at the major league level
next
season?
They need more impactful coaching. And you were just telling me during the break about the impact that Mike Schilt and his staff have had in San Diego. The manager isn't going anywhere, but you've got several coaches' contracts that are up. They need to have more impactful major league coaching.
And the reporting is that the coaching staff will all return for next season.
Well, at least they're negotiating with them.
Yes.
So we'll see. That is Brooke. I'm Randy. Coming up, we've got Take It or Leave It. Get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646, 314-399. Yo-ho! Tioli next on 101 ESPN.
Another NFL Sunday is in the books, and there's nothing better than during NFL Sunday kicking back and watching your entries play out with Underdog Fantasy. It's the greatest time of the year with the NFL season, and over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by competing on Underdog. If you missed the big Sunday slate, don't worry. You got 2 Monday Night Football games. We love this. I love this later in the season double Monday Night header we got going. So I'm going to roll with the game you can hear on 101 ESPN tonight. We're going to look at the Lions and the Seahawks game. We're going to go higher than 39.5 receiving yards for Sam Laporta. I know he's having a down year. This is going to be the breakout game for our boy Laporta. And then we're going to go on the other side with the Seahawks. We're going to roll with DK Metcalf, higher than 66.5 receiving yards. So higher on the receiving yards for both Sam Laporta and DK Metcalf. If you want to get involved with Underdog Fantasy, it's straightforward and signing up's even easier. You just head over to Underdog's simple to use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. You're going to sign up with the promo code ROCC. Underdog's going to give you a free pick to use in your first Cash Champions entry. You just add that to the entry we just built. Plus, they're going to match up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus and present state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Consumer, the play call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Take it or leave it.
Want to say something? Put it out there. If you like it, you can take it. If you don't, send it right back.
Get your text into 314-399-9646 and give us your take it or leave it.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
All right, it's time for Tioli. Get your text in, 314-399-9646, 314-399. Okay, this is a tough one and a controversial one. Brooke, Nolan Arenado forced his way out of Colorado because he knew they weren't going to be able to win. So he came to the Cardinals where he felt like he had a chance every year. Now, granted, he's getting the money. He has the contract. But take it or leave it, you feel sorry for Nolan Arenado that he's never going to have an opportunity to win a World Series.
Do I feel sorry for him?
Take it or leave it, you do.
Well, take it, of course. You would hope with his resume that he'd be able to win a World Series. Now it's also on him to make sure that he can do everything he can to get to that point. But man, especially with the way that things ended with the Rockies and then his transition over to the Cardinals, that's tough. And then you have that whole era now, because we'll find out officially here soon if Paul Goldschmidt will actually be gone or not. It seems like all the reports indicate that he will not be coming back. Think about that era where we thought we'd be able to get more out of that duo, those two cornerstones, and it didn't result in what everybody was hoping for.
When the Cardinals got Arenado, he and the Cardinals are all in on the WAR statistic. He and Goldie for a decade had been top 5 in WAR. And obviously they've fallen off dramatically. I kind of do feel sorry for him because I think he legitimately in his heart wanted to win Arenado.
Yes.
But I don't think he knew how to lead a winning team. I think he was, as it turns out, would have been a really nice complementary part for a really good team, but not a centerpiece part for a really good team. But I feel bad that he is going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's probably not going to get a chance to play for a world championship, at least here.
Yeah, especially with everything that's happening.
Yeah. And in his prime. He's past his prime now, right?
Mm-hmm. He is. How old is he now? Is he 30?
He will be 34 next year, I think. So, yeah, not great. I'll find it. But hashtag sad.
All right, take it or leave it. Skip Schumacher will be the Reds' new manager.
Brooke, I'm going to take that. I think he will. He's the inside favorite. Got the inside track.
Secondary part of this question, take it or leave it, that will be a huge miss by the Cardinals by not getting Skip back into their organization.
I'm going to leave it because I think Skip would run into the same things here that he ran into in Florida. A team that he expected to be really good, where the ownership kind of bailed on him. I think he's actually better off in Cincinnati.
You think so?
With Ellie De La Cruz and their young talent. They've got young superstar talent. We've got young talent, but it's not young superstar talent. Maybe Mason Wynn, but he doesn't live up to what De La Cruz is. And it just appears now, based on what they've done here over the last couple of years, that they're making moves. You know, they go out and get a Frankie Montas at the trade deadline this year. They're making moves, it seems like, to advance, and the Cardinals are making moves to retreat.
Question for you, just kind of following up when you're talking about the Cardinals shifting their philosophy to the Rays when you're talking about payroll models. So you think that the Cardinals will start to be towards the bottom of the barrel like the Marlins, like the Rays, like Pittsburgh when it comes to payroll? Because right now they're 12th this year, and the Rays are 28th, the Marlins are 27th.
Yeah, the Rays have traditionally been bottom 5, even though they've been competitive. I would think rather than top 12, the Cardinals would be bottom 12. I don't know if they'll be 27th, but I would think that we can probably look at 18th, 19th, 20th.
Reds
in
are
that
25th.
range. Yeah. So, especially next year, I would think that, and especially if they move one of the big contracts, if they move Sonny Gray. Yeah, I think that we're probably headed towards that realm. Not where it's, you don't have any players like Oakland this year, but I would think that they will probably not be paying multiple superstars $25 million anymore. All right, Matthew, what do we got on the text line?
Take it or leave it. Mason Wynn becomes a much worse fielder and erratic thrower without Goldie at first.
Oh, good one. I'm going to leave that.
I will leave it.
Yeah.
I think that he'll be fantastic. I do think it is a very fair question. You're going to have a very young infield if you think about it. If you do move on from Paul Goldschmidt, or even if you move on from Nolan Arenado, that'll be a really young infield that you have.
Yeah.
And Paul Goldschmidt, and Dan has pointed out many times, if you watch this season, Paul Goldschmidt has really helped win this season, especially defensively.
Yeah. If he goes to a home run hitter's ballpark like Milwaukee and goes off and hits 25 and drives in 100, you think Cardinal fans will be upset?
Yeah.
I think so, too.
Because it would just be adding to the long list of
this
players who leave who do well.
I'm actually, this is not heartbreaking for me. I will not criticize the Cardinals for parting ways with Paul Goldschmidt, because if they aren't prepared at the moment to try hard to win at the major league level,
then why keep him?
Why keep him, right?
Exactly.
Take it or leave it. You can fund a major league team and your minor league system at the same time.
Take it.
I will take that, yeah. Now, the Cardinals might not want to do that right now, but I think, well, if you look at franchises in big markets, they're doing it. In mid markets, there aren't many franchises that are paying multiple guys $25, $30 million. And the Cardinals, while always having been a mid-market team, have been a reasonably high revenue team, and the model is changing. That's all. I think they're probably switching now to they'll probably reflect more the market that they play in.
Well, they play in a mid-teens market, right?
What, 20? What's our TV market size, Brooke? 22, 24?
23 is the TV market size, but the market size in baseball is not.
I thought it was, it was like 23, 24.
Yeah.
But the market size in baseball is like 15th, right?
No, it's not that high. Yeah, I mean, you've got Portland, you've got a few franchises that.
Cities that are bigger markets.
Yeah,
that don't have teams.
You've got 6 that are in the top 3 markets.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, that's it. Take it or leave it. Next year is a weird waste of a year before the real rebuild kicks off, and it upsets an already jaded fan base.
I would think that this will be probably a multi-year process.
Yes.
I don't think that this is going to be a one-year process, and I don't think the Cardinals.
He's saying that 2025, kind of because of a lack of a leadership change, 2025 ends up just kind of being a waste of a year before the actual rebuild gets going in 26, and because it's a waste of a year where there isn't actually any. The gears aren't moving, that pisses off an already jaded fan base even more.
We're talking about bringing back the same coaching staff. Yeah, I'll take that.
I'll take it too.
I'll take it.
We're in for even more next offseason. Can't wait.
If you weren't with us earlier, I want to reiterate that regardless of what you think of Oli Marmol, and I thought he did a really good job this year, and I think he could use some help with his coaching staff. But even if you wanted a managerial change, if you're a fan that wanted a managerial change, look at it, what they're doing. I'm not saying this is right, but look at what they're doing. If they weren't willing to spend an extra $1 million on 10 coaches at the minor league level, are they going to spend $1 million to have a manager, or $1.5 million that's not managing for them, and have somebody else manage for them? No, it's not going to happen.
No, especially if we're talking about cutting payroll.
Yeah,
not happening.
They saw the light. The clouds parted.
Yeah.
And in a voice angelically from the heavens said,
By the way,
pay your minor leaguers.
again, because
happens here,
of the
Randy.
circumstances that are in place here, take it or leave it, Ollie should send Mo a fruit basket.
Take it.
Yeah. I
But
think
what's
so.
even better than a fruit basket?
Edible arrangements.
Do you like edible arrangements?
I do.
Really?
Oh, the chocolate-covered
I haven't
strawberries
seen
are
one of those
delicious.
in a long time.
They're good, yeah.
Now, okay, the chocolate-covered strawberries, yes. Sometimes the other random fruits,
Okay, so if you're willing to work for it, how about getting a French creperie box?
Yes.
Yeah, with crepes, with a crepe mix and Nutella and jam.
That is delicious.
Take it or leave it. It's a little odd that it felt like Albemarle Mall was the happiest person in St. Louis this weekend.
I'm going to leave that.
Didn't
Who
feel a
was the
little odd to
happiest
you?
person?
He should have been the happiest person.
Because he knows that he's coming back
Yeah.
next year. His
Yeah.
job is safe, of
Yeah,
course.
maybe for 2 years. Yeah.
Just feels a little. Okay.
Well, here's the thing. If it
Just it feels a little odd. Come on.
Hey, they finished with a winning record.
Yep.
What do you want?
right,
A lot more than that.
Oh, okay.
and
Fair.
okay, we need to readjust our sights here. That's Matthew. I've already done it. Matthew, you need to do this.
No, I refuse.
Okay. We need to readjust our sights. 83 and 79 is who we are.
Hey, that
are
was
what your
enough.
record
That was
says.
enough in 2006, Randy.
No, son of God.
Okay, 2006.
I knew it was right there.
But we don't have to look at who is
But
on that 2006
Hall of Famer
team.
Scott Rowland, was he on that team? Hall of Famer Albert Pujols? Hall of Famer Yadier Molina?
Yeah, but that doesn't matter, Randy. It was enough in
Borderline
2006.
Hall of Famer Jim Edmonds?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
World Series MVP David Exton? Toradol was on that team, by the way.
Oh, okay.
So they walk into the
So you're
clubhouse.
saying that there's some differences.
There was a line for shots.
Can we be like
Everybody was in.
Can't it be like an 88 win team?
No.
Like 88?
Okay.
Take it or leave it.
Hold on. Let's ahead or behind right now for the Cardinals. Ahead of or behind the Pirates in terms of future prospects. Ahead of or behind the Pirates.
behind.
Ahead of or behind the Reds.
I would say behind.
Ahead of or behind the Cubs.
I'm not sure about with the Cubs farm
They got a
system.
pretty,
Do they? Where are they? Farm system.
They're pretty much.
have not developed
They've
a lot of
got all their guys under
yeah, they
contract.
do,
pretty much.
but
Ahead of or behind the Brewers.
behind.
behind.
So we're looking at fourth.
That is something.
Optimistically, I'm third.
So you're saying we're going to hear from the organization today about how they will have a shift in philosophy. You think that us as fans should also have a shift in philosophy of expectations for this team. We need to take off the rose-colored sunglasses or glasses at this point.
I think we don't have to like it, but we need to be realistic about it. It is what it is. And the Cardinals have apparently made the decision. There's two ways to go for them. They can't do both, apparently. Don't want to do both. I'm not going to say
There it
can't.
is.
They don't want to do both. They don't want to both build with a well-furnished, strong farm system that is well-coached throughout and participate at a high level at the major league level. They want to do one or the other. And they apparently are choosing to do the minor league system right now.
Can we question their logic as to why they can't do both?
I would say that the games, let me put it this way. The game in terms of the business of the game has moved beyond them. And I don't think they saw it coming. But they aren't going to pay any $43.5 million starting pitchers. They aren't going to sign a player like Juan Soto for $500 million. They aren't going to sign Bobby Witt. I guarantee you that Wynn and Walker, they aren't getting $300 million contracts from the Cardinals. It's just not going to happen. And I think that they probably recognize that now. And that's why I say the Tampa Bay model. And by the way, the one deal the Tampa Bay Rays did make for a $300 million player did not work out very well for them in Wander Franco. So I'm guessing that the Cardinals probably have, at least under this ownership, they've handed out the biggest contract that they're ever going to hand out.
And I've understood, and I've always been of the theory that the reason why they had to pull back is because of the lack of consistency and they don't know what's going on with the TV money.
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is that even if you build a hypothetical that 2027 you have this network and the money's coming back in and you can start doing that stuff again, my problem is that if one of the reasons they've been so confident of that is because the ratings have always been great, no matter where they've been. Even when Bally's is falling apart, the Cardinals' ratings have been great. So if they fall apart for the next 2 years and the ratings aren't great, how do you then have the confidence that the money's going to be there in 2027 when you redo the TV deal?
Why have the ratings been great?
Because they've been competitive.
There you go.
But if they're not competitive the next 2 years, and fan apathy takes over and the ratings fall off, and now we're sitting here in 2026 and the ratings have been terrible, now all of a sudden is it just perpetuating the cycle?
And by the time you get to 2026, their television deals might be all in-house, and they might have to rely on, rather than somebody just handing them a check, Bally, having to sell their own advertising.
I can't see them
And now you have
enjoying that whatsoever.
And now you have to. And now it's an apathetic fan base you're selling it to.
Right.
I think the fan base is already in the point of apathy. I think that they're already there. I think it's already here right now because of everything that's happened for especially the past few seasons, but everything leading up to it. Because now you're admitting fault about basically player development not being up to standards because of your own doing of not supplementing the coaching staff and the minors.
Right. You've got to, at some point, it's like having an illness, an addiction. You have to admit that you have a problem. And this is why I like today, because the Cardinals are at least admitting they have a problem.
A problem that they created.
Yes, but a problem nonetheless. That's Brooke. I'm Randy. Coming up, we just asked the question, and we want to hear from you. Mic drops. You can also use the text line, but the mic drop feature is open with the 101 ESPN app. Are you ready to take a couple of years off from competing while the front office tries to clean up its mess? Pretty simple question. Next on 101 ESPN. we're turning this over to you. It's 8:07 Time Check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. And you get the fresh take today. Are you prepared to take a couple of years off from competing for playoffs and World Series so that the front office can clean up the mess that they have developed at the minor league level, which is apparently what's happening? Are you ready for this?
I think this is a very great question for fans because we already have people texting in saying they haven't attended a game this year. People who are texting in saying they've been lifelong fans and they have not gone to a game this year because of that apathy that we talked about setting in. I have a quick question, too, just to add to this, because I want to gauge what people feel about this with Mosoloc's comments. As I mentioned, a lot of people have a lot of great stories. Katie Wu at The Athletic. Also, you have Derek Gould over at the Post-Dispatch, and he talked to Mosoloc, and I'm sure this is a message that we'll hear again today. And Mosoloc was asked about the reduction in people coming to games. And so I think this also answers your question, Randy. And he said, obviously, we always tried to take a lot of pride in our product. I do think for 2 years in a row, getting off to a slow start in April has certainly had an adverse effect on our attendance. Do you think that that is the reason why we've seen the reduced attendance, is the slow starts in April?
Could be part of it, but they take a lot of pride in a product. I don't think the product has been very entertaining. That would be my main response is, and maybe they watch games differently than I do, but I don't have a lot of fun watching this team play. And for the most part, they're analytics people, and they're looking at the game in a different manner than I do. I'm looking at games to be entertained, to have competitive games, to have players do athletic things. And I think even though this team could have competed for, let's look at it this way. When this team went 32-18 during the middle of the season, they had the best record in baseball during the middle of the season. Were they fun to watch, though? I don't think they were. For me, the quality of product plays a bigger role in the low attendance. And then obviously falling out of the race and being non-competitive. That was the biggest reason for the late August and September crowd swoons. Being out of the race is the biggest thing. But I think it's exacerbated by the idea, for me at least, that the team isn't fun to watch.
No, it was not fun to watch whatsoever. The issues with situational hitting this season, I think, is something that we talked about a lot. You've had a lot of close games, but it still didn't feel like it was competitive games. And you also pay to go see stars, and your stars were not performing to the level that you want to see for a big part of the season. Here's from the 314. I'm totally prepared for a reset. I'm not prepared for the same people who caused the issues to be in charge of the reset. What other business allows the CEO and other managers to stay in charge when there was a huge failure in the business?
That's true. Yes, Matthew, you got an answer for us?
Listen, Wall Street.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
Again, you're right. You're right. It shouldn't be allowed. But if you're going to throw me a softball right there, I'm going to take a swing at it.
You got it. The Cardinals organization, this from the 636. The Cardinals organization has overhyped certain players and has overhyped the Cardinals team and has overhyped the Cardinals organization itself for way too long. When you continue to pretend that nothing is broken, even when many parts of within the organization are broken, and you continue to operate in the same wrong manner, then you'll continue to create many backward steps over and over and over again. Let's get a mic drop in here from Terry on 101 ESPN. Hi, Terry.
This is all about cutting costs. It has nothing to do with improving the baseball team. This is the brewery of the early 1990s. That's what you're going to get.
Well, it is about cutting costs. There's no doubt about it. And it's not about improving the major league team. Perhaps it's about long-term fixing the problem because for them, they probably have given themselves financial parameters that they can work within, and they probably feel like they can't work within the financial parameters that they have in place. They're kind of in no man's land with their payroll and what they feel like they can afford to pay, and then what it takes to compete with Philadelphia or the Dodgers or Even the Padres right now with what they're paying their players, the Mets, the Braves, the Cardinals probably feel like they're in no man's land. So why not take a chance on trying to win in a much less expensive manner and not win big, but just try to be competitive like the Rays?
Yeah. Here's from the 636, and I think this plays into what you were just talking about there. How much money does it really take to improve player development in the minors? A few additional coaches can't be more than a couple million a year. Seems like a lousy excuse to underspend in the big leagues. I think a big question that you were touching on there is we understand that you're going to work on the minor league system. After COVID happened, you reduced the coaching staff in the minors. Clearly, that's how we got to this point, right? Where you have a reduced coaching staff in the minors compared to other teams in the league. My question is, who thought it was a good idea not to hire back those roles? How did you expect a result where, if you're talking about player development, how did you expect a different result where if you didn't have enough staff in the minor leagues to be able to help the player development side, how are you not expecting the result of where we're at currently, where you have to admit fault and then go back and hire those people? Whose idea was it to run so lean on that side? Was it DeWitt's? Was it Mosoloc? Whose decision was it?
I think that's a fair question. And I will add that before the pandemic, Jim Edmonds worked with the Cardinal minor leaguers along with Chris Carpenter, Jason Isringhausen, and Ryan Ludwig. Those four were all pre-pandemic with the team and working for nominal sums. During the pandemic, all were let go, and then Ludwig and Izzy were brought back. Very important guys in the organization. We saw the dramatic effect that Ryan Ludwig had on Victor Scott II. We know that Izzy has a dramatic effect on the young pitchers, Ryan Helsley being one of them. Then you don't bring back Edmonds and Carpenter, two guys who not only are really good at teaching baseball, but also carry gravitas within the organization because they've got World Series rings. I would like to know who made a decision like that and how much difference it would have made with the advancement of their young players if they would have had those guys. Let's get to Jacob here on 101 ESPN. Hi, Jacob.
I don't know why they have to take a couple years off from competing. Why can't they find even ground? Why has it been for years that the fans have been able to call the baby ugly, but the ownership team has not, the front office has not? You look at all the signings that they've done the last few years, outside of one or two, and you go on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it today, or any other social media, and the fans are identifying what's wrong while the professionals who are getting paid millions of dollars cannot. It makes zero sense.
I'll try to put it in my perspective, and I think I think you'll agree with this, Jacob. I think there's a lot of smartest guy in the room syndrome going on here. I think the Cardinals have people in the organization that feel like, oh, well, we've done it before. We're doing it right. We can't do anything wrong. Failing to adapt to a new baseball over the course of the last 10, 15, 20 years. I think that's the biggest thing, is that we observe all the other teams and see what's going on. And the Cardinals, I've made this point before, between 1996, when they brought in Tony La Russa, and Chaim Bloom before last season, the Cardinals did not bring in a single person from another organization in Major League Baseball that had a true voice within their organization. Michael Gersh was in the business world. Jeff Luno was working for PetStore.com. They brought people from other walks of life, but not from other major league organizations, to try to tell them why they had been passed up, because maybe they didn't believe they had been passed up. Heck, didn't they say, Brooke, that last year was a one-off? Oh, we're fine. We're fine. We won 71 games, but it's all good. It was a fluke. And now it takes another year to recognize that maybe that wasn't a fluke.
Well, they finished with a winning record, Randy. Didn't you see? 83 and 79. They finished with a winning record, and they finished tied with the Cubs for second in the National League Central. Just don't look at the run differential that I pointed out earlier. Do you want me to repeat that again?
Yes.
The Brewers are third in the league at plus 141. The Cubs are 12th in the league at plus 70, and the Cardinals are 20th in the league at minus 52 in run differential.
I will reiterate what I said at the beginning of the show. I think today is a good thing because I think the Cardinals are recognizing some shortcomings. Is it the best of all worlds? No. But I do believe that if you recognize a problem and try to fix it, you deserve a little bit of credit for it.
Exactly. But they are the ones that put themselves in that position.
They
I think that's the
totally
hard
are.
part of this is that at least they recognize player development, something that we've talked about a lot. And we have had some people point out on the text line, look, we've been talking all season. I actually am happy for this move because we've talked about the youth movement. We've had some people text that in. I think people are fine with the youth movement and that you're finally focusing back on the player development. It's just hard for people to understand how the organization got to this point.
And I will not begrudge anybody who makes this statement. If you can afford to only do minor leagues or major leagues, if you can't afford to do both, then why are you owning a franchise?
Exactly.
I will not begrudge anybody who asks that question because I think it's legitimate.
I think it's a very fair question.
Yeah, if you can't run the business at a high level, then why are you owning it? I think that's a really reasonable question to ask. All right, that's today's Fresh Take. We're going to get more of your mic drops coming up in the Rush Hour Reset at 9. Next up, though, Chris Kerber here on 101 ESPN.
Man, how about a review like this? If you're looking for somebody to come into your home and take care of your HVAC unit, your air conditioner, your furnace, you want these kind of reviews. Nick L. definitely was a miracle on a hot day. He had the AC fixed in less than an hour. He was kind of polite, respectful, and explained everything in a way I could understand. It's simple. You bring quality service to the customers, they're going to call you back. They're going to tell their friends about it, and that's why there's that many reviews and a 4.8 Google rating for Classic Air Care. You're going to get the same kind of service that Alex Ferrario has gotten, that I've gotten, that so many and thousands of people have gotten. They take care of their employees, and one of the reasons they do that is they know that that will translate to the employees taking care of the customer. That's the quality service you get with Classic Air Care. So whether it's something as simple as a maintenance plan, them coming out to just service your unit, them coming out to replace your unit, maybe you just want to buy air filters from them so you don't have to worry about it. It's all there. It's Classic Air Care. Check it out online at classicaircare.com. You can call them as well. A live person will answer the phone, and you will get the same kind of quality service to make sure that your furnace and your air conditioner are running the way it should be so you're comfortable all the time. It's Classic Air Care, making people comfortable since 1926.
everything St. Louis Blues as we head into the Blues booth on 101 ESPN. Presented by Boardwalk Hardwood Floors. Find your perfect new floor at boardwalkhardwood.com.
Brooke and Randy, and we head to the Celebrity Line, and the voice of your St. Louis Blues, Chris Kerber, is with us. The Blues and the Blue Jackets tomorrow night, 6 o'clock pregame here on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. Chris Kerber, a lot going on today. How you doing?
Randy, I'm doing well. I'm down in Banter, Missouri. We've got a golf tournament in honor of my uncle who passed away a year and a half or so ago, Frank Albrecht, and his friends, Terry O'Brien, and a lot of his friends have put on a little golf outing 2 years in his memory. So we're going to celebrate my uncle this morning, and I think it's a perfect way to start the day.
That is an absolutely perfect way to start the day. All right, let's start with Dalibor Dvorsky being sent to the A. No surprise there, but it seems like the Blues pretty much have their group of players ready to go for the opener. Do you feel that way now after yesterday's cutdown?
Yeah, I think a lot more is clear. I mean, now you still have some decisions to make. I still think there's going to be a couple more guys put on waivers at some point here because you just can't carry everybody, and you've got a lot of one-way contracts, right? So to be able to send somebody down, it's going to have to go that way. But I think they're settling in on it. To me, the real question is just how do these pawn pieces fit on the chessboard now? Who's in what spot? Which ones are your bishops? Which ones are your kings? I kind of know the kings and queens right now, but we need to find out which ones are the knights and the rooks and the pawns and get through that.
Curbs, who stood out for you in that 3-2 overtime victory against the Blackhawks?
Well, one of the guys that they sent down, I thought Leo Loof had a really solid game. He's kind of flown a little off the radar here in the last couple of years because they haven't called him up. He came over to North America kind of quietly. I think he had a solid year last year. But as a guy that I think you could have justified him sticking around based on his play and playing another game, Leo Loof was there. So his physicality, I thought in the game was good. He was impactful. He was noticeable. And when somebody's noticeable like that, what he did for himself was put himself maybe just a little bit more on the radar screen as a potential call-up in what's already a jam-tight, position there defensively. So I thought he stood out probably as good as anybody. And I'll tell you something, through all the games so far, I think the bright spot for me has been the goaltending, the bright spot. The goaltending just seems to have been very solid and very calm this preseason, and that's a terrific sign.
Curbs, what have your impressions been of Bolduc?
Listen, I think Randy, Bolduc has come in and had a really good camp. I think he's earned another game or so, obviously, to try to solidify the top six. I just think, especially with Dvorsky, going to need some seasoning and go down to the minors. You're better off with a guy like Zach Bolduc just starting to get his teeth, really dug into that top six. So to me, I think he's had a very good camp. I think he's come in. I think you've seen, you go back 2 years ago when he came into camp before they sent him back to junior, and he wasn't very impactful. And one of the things about him was they said he stayed to the outside a little bit. Patrick Wise, coach in junior, was trying to say, look, you got to get to those tougher areas. You can get away on the outside in juniors. You can't in pro hockey. And I think he realized that over the last couple of years. There's a confidence to him. There's an air like this. He's got that look like he belongs right now, if that makes sense. So I think Bolduc has done a very good job and put himself in a position to be a top six forward to start the season for the Blues.
Now, I know it's obviously a small sample size and it's just preseason, but what has stood out to you about Dylan Holloway?
Well, I think in that last game, the way Dylan Holloway used his speed to use some physicality. Obviously, he had a couple of goals, and I always caution don't get too enamored with goals in the preseason. But it's how he got him there and the type of, puck hound that he was in that game. Now, we have yet to really play our good lineup against another team's good lineup. So there's a lot of hesitation to read too much for me into this preseason. But you saw his speed, you saw his ability. And this is one of the things. I mean, the Blues were able to go out and basically for a third-round pick get a 14th overall pick, from a couple of years ago that looks ready to step into a full-time role in the National Hockey League. So very positive vibes right now for him.
And Curbs, as we head towards the start of the regular season 1 week from tomorrow, we'll point out that Brandon Saad's wife is expecting. So that opening night lineup might be a little bit different than the lineup we see a week after that.
Yeah, and great planning on the part of the St. Louis Blues. That's why he was kind of in a different skating group a couple of days ago. So I think Brandon Saad's actually had a really solid camp as well. Somewhat quietly, Brandon Saad he just gets to that 20-goal level just about every single year, and, of course, had a career high last year at 26. For this, I've said this since the Blues signed him, and this is not knocking Brandon Saad in any way. If the Blues are a deep enough team to make the playoffs, to me, Brandon Saad is consistently a third-line winger that moves up the lineup when you need him, because that means that you've got some of that faster, younger skill ready to go ahead of him, and I still think that's the case. So there's a real pivotal role that Brandon Saad can play for this team.
Hey, Curbs, one more thing. We've been waiting for Scott Perunovich for a long time, and obviously he's been hampered by injuries. He has been healthy so far during camp. I want to get your thoughts on the way Perunovich has performed.
I think he's been okay. In the games that he's played, I don't know that he's jumped off the page at you. I can't imagine the pressure that he feels, to be honest with you. And he's been in town. This is a young man that's willing to go out in the community, and I've seen it at golf tournaments, at different charity events. You pull for him, but this is a deep defensive group. And if you, I don't know that this team has the ability to have a power play specialist. And to be all fairness with him in the National Hockey League, I don't think that you can be. He's going to have to shoot the puck more if he's going to be on the power play to be more effective, but the Blues need a little bit more. There were a couple of plays, and listen, size-wise, this is a little unfair. Pat Maroon just kind of took him off the puck pretty easily on a couple of plays behind the net. That's just physics. That's just physics, and that's going to be a battle that happens there. What the Blues do with him remains to be seen, Randy. Does he get an opportunity to start, with this team and give him a run to see what you have? Is he on the outside having to still claw his way in? Their signing of Suter, they're bringing in of Broberg, really changed how this defensive group looks and has made it a little tougher on guys like Perunovich. So I think the jury is still out. And the thing is, Randy, unless the team either has to commit to play him on a regular basis for, 10, 15 games again to see if it can fit this year, or it could be hard to get a real read on him if he ends up being in and out of the lineup. And I'm just not sure that the way camp has gone, not just because of him, but with other guys as well, and you're coming up pretty healthy, I don't know what opportunity is really there at the moment.
Right. Good point. Okay, one last thing before we let you play golf. Does a responsible and assertive agent, when Leo Loof makes the NHL, does Leo Loof almost have to have a Lufa endorsement? The Loof Lufa?
Man, Joe and I almost went down a rabbit hole during that last game that we were going to have a hard time getting out of, so I cut it off short. I'm just saying, he scores a goal, and I could say, you can raise the Loof. There's a whole bunch of sick, dad joke puns that are coming out of this one. But for name alone, we have to hope that Leo Loof makes the National Hockey League. I just think it sounds fantastic. So yeah, but without a doubt, there's about 35 different Lufa references, and I knew in the last game that if I threw any one of them to Joe, we were going to have Jordan Deacon on the board put her finger over the delete button. So I figured I'd try not to take Joe down that road too early in the preseason.
If he has that night where he's just floating out there on the ice, you can say he's aloof.
Oh.
Well, it would be accurate both in name and performance in that case. So, yeah, there are just certain names, and I'd have to put a little more thought into it. There are just certain names that are just destined to be pro athletes, and to me, Leo Loof is clearly one of them.
No doubt about it. Curbs, thanks so much, and thanks for what you do. Again, our condolences. I know it's been a while, but with your family, and glad you're doing that today in Banter, playing golf in memory of your uncle.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun day out here. Looking forward. Frank was awesome. He was a city attorney in Brentwood for a while. I know a lot of people kind of knew him, and he was the youngest of my mom's 6 siblings. And he actually, it was colon cancer that got him. So I guess a real quick opportunity to remind everybody, especially the guys out there, get that colonoscopy. do not wait. He waited, and that's the truth on this. He waited, and by the time they discovered it, it was too late. And the reality of it is if you've got it in your family, you should be getting that colonoscopy around the age of 40. If you don't have a history of it, definitely by the age of 50. And if they catch it, then a lot can be done to cure it. So make sure you get that done. So frankly, you stay healthier. And it's an easy test, as you know, Randy. It's not hard to go through, but it can save your life. So please go get it done.
Well said. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, guys. Talk to you later.
See you later. Chris Kerber with us on 101 ESPN. So a couple of years ago, Brooke, I had a colonoscopy. And so they've got this giant facility where they've got like little cubicles where they've got a hospital bed. And they've maybe
I know where this is
40
going.
40 people in this thing, maybe 50. And so and they put you under with propofol. They put you out. And so they pull me out of it. I have the procedure and everything. And I'm on propofol. And they have to wake me up quickly because I was snoring so loud that I was waking up people in this facility that were down on propofol. It's unbelievable. I was snoring that loud.
I thought you were going to say you were waking up people in a different way.
Oh, no.
Colonoscopy.
Oh, I know somebody that woke up during one.
Oh my
Bad.
gosh.
Yeah. So, but no, I was waking up people that were under anesthesia because I was snoring so loud. Is it Mr. Karraker? Wake up.
At least you were sleeping well.
I was sleeping. It was a great nap.
By the way, did you do that sleep apnea test yet?
I have to get in touch. I did, but I don't have the results of it. So I thought I was going to get a phone call.
Because this is different than having to wear the sleep app machine thing.
Right. The sleep test now is so easy. It's just like wearing a Fitbit with a little thing that goes on your finger.
Oh, you don't have to do all the stuff on your head?
No, didn't have to do that. No. And so I got it from Millennium Sleep Labs, and I got to get in touch with them so that I can set up an appointment because I'm going to get an alternative to the CPAP. It's just a mouthpiece that you wear.
Yeah.
So I hope it works.
That will be a huge difference.
Apparently, I have like record-setting sleep apnea.
A record set.
Yeah.
You're in the history books for it.
I am, yeah.
They want to study you. You'll be in medical books, Randy, for this history-breaking moment.
Looking forward to that. Coming up, we've got the fight, and we need a fighter, correct? We don't know we had a winner on Friday? Oh, yeah.
Remember the tiebreaker?
Oh, yeah. Close tiebreaker. So, yeah, we've got a fighter coming up next on 101 ESPN. Hey, there's a great St. Louis company, Together Credit Union, and you'll love being a member of Together Credit Union for so many reasons. And one of them is their just launched brand new high-yield checking account called Empower Checking. With Empower Checking at Together Credit Union, you can earn above market interest on the money you keep in your day-to-day checking account. Interest is paid to you each month. It's a checking account that rewards you for balances and not activity. When's the last time you had an account, especially a checking account, where you earned a lot of interest? You can with Together Credit Union's Empower Checking. To apply, it's easy. Visit togethercu.org or stop by any of the 14 local St. Louis branches and work directly with one of their amazing local member advocates at Together Credit Union. Get paid to save with Empower Checking. And when you get Empower Checking, don't forget to get that Together Credit Union City SC debit card as part of your deal. Visit togethercu.org/empower for full terms and details. Membership eligibility required. Together Credit Union, federally insured by the NCUA.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals finish out their season with a 6-1 victory over the Giants, and they finish the season at 83-79. But the big news is the next season starts today, 2 p.m. press conference. You can catch it right here on 101 ESPN. Speaking of 101 ESPN, we will also have one of the 2 games in the Monday night doubleheader tonight on 101 ESPN. 6:30 p.m. is your pregame start for the Lions and the Seahawks. Also over the weekend, St. Louis City SC was officially eliminated from the MLS playoffs, but they did walk away with a big rivalry victory 3-1 over Sporting Kansas. That is your Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent magazine heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Karraker.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Randy, and Rockio here, and it is time for the fight. And we have a returning fighter, Jason. Jason, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right. It was kind of a roller coaster sports weekend for me after watching the Alabama game and the Cardinals wrapping it up. So
yeah, how crazy was that Alabama-Georgia game?
Oh, nuts.
I couldn't stop watching it.
They started getting cute at the end of the second quarter.
They did. And then Carson Beck just like turned into Mahomes, and it was nuts.
The difference between Nick Saban and Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah. But it was still a great game. You have to feel at least pretty good this weekend, though, considering that you had a victory against Randy with that tiebreaker, though.
There we go.
Absolutely. I got a lot of people listening, I think.
All right. You said your daughter usually listens too during this, right?
Yeah, she's at school, hopefully listening. So I'll give a shout out to her. She had a rough weekend. They got their butts whooped in hockey. So we'll have a better week.
There we go. All right. Well, we'll kick it off with this. Jason, are you ready for the fight?
Let's go.
Okay, question number 1. With the Braves failing to win the NL East this season, the longest streak of consecutive division titles belongs to which franchise? Is it the Dodgers, the Brewers, or the Astros?
The question one more time, I'm sorry.
With the Braves failing to win the NL East this season, the longest streak of consecutive division titles belongs to which franchise? Is it the Dodgers, the Brewers, or the Astros?
Astros, final answer.
Bob Gibson is one of 2 pitchers, alongside Sandy Koufax, to win multiple World Series MVPs, winning the award during the Cardinals' victories over which 2 American League clubs? Is it the Yankees and the Tigers, the Red Sox and the Tigers, or the Yankees and the Red Sox?
What was the first one again?
Yankees and Tigers.
Yankees and Tigers, final answer.
All right, question number 3, Jason. The most home runs that a Cardinals team has ever hit was 235 in the 2000 season. Who led that team with 42 home runs? Is it Mark McGwire, J.D. Drew, or Jim Edmonds?
What year was that? I'm sorry.
2000 season.
2000. McGwire. You say McGwire, Drew, and who else?
Jim Edmonds.
Oh, tough one. I'm going to go with Edmonds, final answer.
All right. Since Kurt Warner won both the MVP and Super Bowl in 1999, there has only been one MVP winner to win the award the same season that they would go on to win the big game. Which quarterback was it? Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes, or Aaron Rodgers?
One more time. I missed the first part of it, sorry.
Since Kurt Warner won both the MVP and Super Bowl in 1999, there has been only one player to replicate that by winning the award and then winning the Super Bowl in the same season. Which quarterback is it? Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes, or Aaron Rodgers?
Man, that's a tough one. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, final answer.
All right, we'll double-check our score, and we will bring in Randy Karraker.
How are you feeling, Jason?
Not great.
It seems like you were debating with a couple of them there. Were you just going with your gut instinct?
Yeah. I was it kind of transitioned into that 2000 season when we actually started playing good baseball, from the 90s. So it's a little rough.
Oh, here comes Randy in right now. No grapes in hand today.
Had a banana today.
Oh, you had a banana.
Potassium.
Yeah.
Potassium is great for you.
Bananas are great.
They are. Say hi to Jason again.
Jason, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for listening. Thanks for playing. We do appreciate it.
You got it.
Are you ready for question number 1?
Ready.
With the Braves failing to win the NL East this season, the longest streak of consecutive division titles belongs to which franchise?
Well, certainly not the Phillies.
Yeah, good job. That was nicely done.
Yeah. Let's see. It's almost got to be the Houston Astros. I don't think Texas won the division last year, so I will go with Houston. Not the Junkies, not the Tribe or the Guardians. The Brewers are pretty good, but I'm still going to go with Houston.
Randy, Bob Gibson is one of 2 pitchers, alongside Sandy Koufax, to win multiple World Series MVPs, winning the award during the Cardinals' victories over which 2 American League clubs?
I would guess that he won it in 1964 against the Yankees and then 1967 against the Red Sox, since those were the 2 world championships that he won. And I don't think he won it in 1968 when the Cardinals lost to the Tigers, even though he struck out 17 in the first game.
Jesus Christ.
You ready for question number 3, Randy?
Ready.
That's just nuts whenever you do that. All right. Question number 3. The most home runs that a Cardinals team has ever hit was 235 in the 2000 season. Who led that team with 42 home runs?
42 in 2000. That would have had to have almost been Jimmy Baseball because I think his career high was 42. Big Mac, he must have been in the 30s that year because his last year, 2001, Big Mac had 32. And I don't think McGuire had a 42 here. So I'm going to go with Jimmy Baseball, Jim Edmonds in his first year with the Cardinals. Let me just double check here. Wasn't Placido Polanco, I can tell you that. 2000, McGuire. 2000, Langford was still here. He didn't have 42. See, I'll go with that. I'll go with Edmonds.
Did he like evolve from Jimmy Baseball to Jimmy Ballgame? Is that like, did that develop over the years?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
I just,
multiple nicknames.
Okay, I just didn't know if like which one came first. Yeah. Was it like an evolution kind of thing where he had to earn it? Okay.
Yeah,
I was wondering.
A good player. Took him for granted. We'd love to have a Jimmy Baseball right now.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Since Kurt Warner won both the MVP and Super Bowl in 1999, there's only been one MVP winner to win the award the same season that they would go on to win the big game. Which QB was it?
Which QB won the MVP the year they won the Super Bowl? Well, there's only like 3 possibilities here. I don't think... I have heard this question before, but I don't remember what the answer was. I don't think it was Aaron Rodgers, though, in 2010. I don't think it was Big Ben. It's got to be Brady or Manning, right? And I don't know that... Let's see. Brady, I know in 2007, Brady won the MVP, but they didn't win the Super Bowl. Manning in 2009 didn't win the Super Bowl. 06? Manning in 06 when they beat the Bears. Who would have been the other? So it's either Manning or Brady. It's a coin flip, total coin flip. And because he won more Super Bowls, I'm going to go with Tom Brady. I'm just going to play the odds.
All righty.
Seven Super Bowl wins will do that to you. How about his little set two with Baker Mayfield?
Yeah.
It
felt a little forced.
Baker has come out and said that it was taken. His comments about Brady were taken out of context.
Fox just wanted a moment with Tom Brady.
Yeah, they
is
did.
what that felt like.
It felt like
a little bit. Yeah. So we'll maybe dive into Baker's comments later on in the week. We do have a winner in today's fight. Jason looking to force a round 3 and a shot at the Hall of Fame with a win today. Does he do it? Or does Randy Karraker, with a little rest and relaxation over the weekend, come back and stop Jason in his tracks? Ring that bell.
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Karraker.
Just win, baby.
I'm sorry, Jason. Randy Karraker just barely got you. He beat you 3-2 in today's fight.
I knew it was.
Yep,
I had a feeling that I'd only got 2.
Yep,
so.
it was that second one that got you. The history bites you. With the Braves failing to win the NL East this season, the longest streak of consecutive division titles belongs to the Houston Astros. 4 straight. The Braves were working on 6 straight, by the way, before the Phillies stopped them. The Astros have won the AL West the last 3 years. They did split. They did win the same amount of games last year as the Rangers, but they were declared the AL West title. The Dodgers, by the way, have won 5 out of the last 6, but the Giants back in 2021 jumped up and got that division, which is what ruins the Dodgers for that answer. So the Astros are the correct answer. 24, 23, 22, and 21. Bob Gibson is one of 2 pitchers alongside Sandy Koufax to win multiple World Series MVPs, and it was those 2 wins in the 60s, not the 1 loss. It was the Yankees and the Red Sox. And the fact that he has 2 World Series MVPs over those 2 franchises, is overlooked in my opinion, because to have 2 World Series MVPs and it to be against the freaking Red Sox and Yankees is insane. The most home runs that a Cardinals team has ever hit was 235 in the 2000 season, and it was in fact Jimmy Ballgame who led them with 42. McGuire put in 32, Langford 26, and then Tatis and J.D. Drew had 18 apiece, 16 from Edgar Renteria, 15 from Craig Paquette. Sean Dunston hit 12, and Will Clark also in double digits with 12 as well for the Cardinals. So they were just sitting there with 9 players in double digits with the home runs in 2000. And since Kurt Warner won both the MVP and the Super Bowl in 1999, there's been just one MVP to repeat that feat, and it was just a couple years ago when Patrick Mahomes did it in 2022. Tom Brady, all those MVPs, all those Super Bowls never lined up for Brady. Obviously for Manning, neither. And so it was Patrick Mahomes in 2022 and Tom and Kurt Warner, the only guys to do it in the last 25 MVPs.
All right. Thank you. And thank you very much for tuning in to The Fight here on 101 ESPN. Coming up, if this is it for John Mosoloc signing expensive free agents, what kind of a grade are we going to give him for his FA history? That's next on 101 ESPN. I think we can safely say that John Mosoloc has made some good free agent acquisitions over the years. But But that being said, if we look at the last decade, Brooke, at the biggest signings he made and the biggest signings he ever made, and we try to grade it A, B, C, D, F, we might be looking at an F here. If you look at Fowler, Mike Leake, Gray, Contreras, Andrew Miller, Brett Cecil, all big signings in the last decade. Okay, I'm not going to give him an F because Gray was everything I expected this year. Just 1 year into a 3-year deal. That could change, obviously. And I do think that the Wilson Contreras, I don't think Wilson Contreras is an F.
He brings a lot offensively.
Yeah,
it's just
he's just not there.
Yes, availability matters a lot. But the other part of it,
can't blame the GM for that.
No, but also the other portion that I think you can blame is the fact that they were trying to move him to another position during the season last year, and I don't know if they completely have deviated away from that plan. Do you think that that's still in the cards where they're looking at Wilson Contreras to do something else other than being a catcher?
I don't think he will be the Cardinals' everyday catcher. I think that Pages probably has taken that job, and I think Contreras probably is looking at being a designated hitter, or maybe they do it. With Goldie not being back, maybe he looks at being the first baseman.
Because remember, there was talks about him going to first base or in the outfield. Now they retracted those statements, of course, as we know last season, but that was the talk at first, is that they were going to move him to a different position, maybe even first.
Yeah, so let's look at this group. And by the way, somebody texted in exactly Steven Matz has to be considered in this group too in the last decade, 4 years, 48 million or 44 million, 4 and 40 something. So if you're just going to individually grade these, I think Fowler winds up being an F.
Yes.
Not great.
Agreed. I think Leake is clearly an F.
Yes.
I think Andrew Miller, for me, is an F.
Yes.
Brett Cecil, F minus.
Could you go lower than that? That contract still haunts me.
It's horrible. Steven Matz, we love Steven, but he hasn't been available. So I think, again, you hate to blame somebody.
Do you
for
give
that.
him at least a D, though?
I'll give him
Because
a
when
D,
he's
yeah.
available, he is
Yeah.
helpful. Minus before, if you look at earlier this season, when he had that one game where he absolutely imploded, and then he went on the injured list after that.
Yeah.
Back it up a bit. Don't really care.
So I think when we talk about spending and the inefficiency with which the Cardinals have spent their money, we talked a lot about this because people like to say DeWallet and they like to criticize the Cardinals for not spending enough. I would add in a word. They haven't spent smart enough.
Yes.
Really? Yeah, really. So I think that if we're going to, and let's just presume that Mo is going to be done after 2025, and he's not going to sign any big money free agents. If anything, they're going to shed salary this year. So we now can make a judgment and grade his free agency history over the course of the last decade. Okay, I got to give him a fail.
Especially for over the last decade.
A Randy Karraker memorial failure. Yes.
Because you weren't able to get anything out of that. You mentioned payroll, and it's not necessarily a bad thing that payroll is going down, right? It's just because they're 12th in payroll currently this year. A lot of that has been some of those free agent spendings that you're talking about, Randy. How expensive the starting rotation is, as we know they're going to change a lot of that. You have Goldschmidt coming off the books, possibly some other players too. So they're 12th in payroll right now. You do have some other teams that are pretty competitive that are not high in payroll. I mean, look at the Brewers, for example. They're 21st in payroll this season. They were able to get to 93 wins, and of course they won the division.
And what percentage of their payroll is devoted strictly to Christian Yelich? It's pretty substantial.
It is substantial. The Reds, obviously, is another team to look at that's within your division. They're 25th in payroll. And then you have the Pirates, who are 29th in payroll. That didn't work out for them. But I don't think that necessarily cutting payroll is a bad thing. But when you're reflecting on what you're talking about there, specifically Mosoloc in the last decade, it's those contracts that really have come back to haunt them where we're at this point.
And we got a text earlier saying, why can't they be like the Orioles? And the reason that they can't be like the Orioles is because the landscape has changed. The Orioles had 4 top 5 picks over the course of a 6-year period. That's not allowed anymore. Even the Chicago White Sox, who were historically bad this year, they're draft position is going to be no better than 10th for the 2025 draft because of the way the CBA is set up to prevent teams from tanking. So while we would love for the Cardinals to be able to do what the Orioles did, it's just not realistic. And by the way, they not only did well with their getting the picks, but then they did well with their drafts, the Orioles did. So it's just another franchise that you have to give credit to for doing good things. Here, let me give you their picks. One of their picks, first overall, was Adley Rutschman. He was the number 1 overall pick in 2019. The second pick in 2020 was Heston Kjerstad, who has been really good. Colton Cowser could be the American League Rookie of the Year this year. He was drafted 5th overall in 2021. And then, of course, Jackson Holliday with the first overall pick in 2022. Teams won't be able to do that anymore. You won't be able to pick in the top 5 in 4 years out of 6 like the Orioles did. So that's why the Cardinals can't be like the Orioles or the Astros.
Some people also pointed out Greg Holland.
That was a bad one. Yeah.
1 year, $14 million?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. So, yeah, there have been some really bad ones, and it's much more difficult to find the good ones.
What about the trades? Where would you rate John Mosoloc in regards to trades?
I think the trades
over
have been
the last decade
pretty good. And all things considered, when you look at what the Cardinals had to give up for Arenado, you do that again. What they gave up for Goldie, you do that again.
Those are both A's. But how much does Hayward... Ozuna.
See, Hayward's fine, right?
Ozuna? How much do those trades bring it down?
The mistake with Ozuna was not keeping him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because he's been really good with Atlanta. Really good.
And again, the Ozuna one, we always talk about a lot of context around that one. Hayward, a lot of people hated that.
Yeah, I mean, you gave up Shelby Miller and...
he had a couple good years.
Yeah. So that was fine. You just didn't keep him.
I can't imagine the trades. If we went through every trade he made, I can't imagine we'd be worse than like a low B, high C.
And then you look at the recent ones like Dylan Carlson, like Tyler O'Neill. I'm trying to think of some other recent ones.
Rosarena.
Those are some bad ones. That's a good point.
Yeah. So
maybe a C. A C.
Yeah.
So at the end of this, we're at a C for trades and an F for free agency.
Now, this is over the course of the last decade. When you look at the early years, though,
yeah, that's true.
The Holiday trade was great. The Berkman signing was great. The Beltran signing, he just lost his mojo somewhere around 2015.
Somebody mentioned Albert Pujols was a good free agent signing.
That was really good, yep.
But, I mean, they were always kind of able to patch the holes in the middle infield, too. Fairly successfully at second base and shortstop. They never found consistency there, but I mean they were patching holes pretty successfully for about a decade and a half.
If they don't make the trades at the deadline in 11, they don't win the championship, right? Getting Furcal and rebuilding the bullpen essentially by trading Colby Rasmus.
And I know people like text line right now is pointing out he's never won a championship without our Pujols and all that stuff like that. I think you do have to give him credit for building a very well-built roster in 2013 without Albert Pujols.
No doubt.
I know
it had a lot of the foundations there from La Russa, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
What about extensions that he's given players?
That's
the Holiday? Yeah. Or are you talking MARP?
The MARP one makes no sense. Yeah, the MARP one still makes no sense.
MARP one was pretty bad. What else are we looking at extension-wise?
Did DeYoung get one?
DeYoung got one. Alan Craig. Yeah, got a long-term contract. Wonger got a long-term contract.
But man, all three of those were just, they were trying to get out ahead. Like, I don't know if I want to even knock them for those.
It was, but it goes back. See, the evaluation of their young talent has been deficient for a long time.
But did they misevaluate Paul DeYoung or Colton Wong when you see what they've been able to do in the totality of their MLB careers?
Yeah, because I think they expected Paul DeYoung to be a 285, 30 home run guy on a regular basis, and I think they expected Colton Wong to be a legitimate big-time leadoff hitter, and he never became that guy. So, yeah, I would say that their evaluation of those guys, the return on investment wasn't what they expected it was going to be.
This is from Truth Church in Waterloo. It's really interesting when there's always names fully on these.
Like that?
They said he lost his mojo when the price tag for good/great free agents went up.
I don't disagree with that. And that's one thing that the Cardinals don't want to swim in those waters, and they tried to make a lot of budget moves that didn't work out. Yeah. Or tried to sign guys like they signed Andrew Miller for what he had done in the past when he was already 34, 35 years old, right? A couple of the free agent signings, Mike Leake was a desperation signing after they found out that Lance Lynn was going to have to undergo Tommy John surgery. Zach Duke is going to have Tommy John surgery, so what do they do? They go spend $30.5 million on Brett Cecil. Some of the moves that makes it even worse were desperation moves.
I will say, though, I think it's not, I mean, just because signing Matt Holiday to the extension wasn't a free agency move. It was an extension after you traded for him. Doesn't just mean you can just like wipe that off the slate and act like it didn't happen.
Oh, no,
like,
that was a good move.
That's still a very good move, and it made a lot of sense to say like they gave big contracts. It's just they were doing it in a way that was trying to play it the most safe by getting the guy in the building for half a year. I think that's a very logical way to go about things.
Here's another one that people keep pointing out in extension talk is Miles Michaelis.
Yeah, that one's tough. And then let's look at the one that didn't happen. When Max Scherzer wanted to be here and give a hometown discount, told Boris he wanted to give a hometown discount, got in touch with Waino, got in touch with his friends here, said, hey, tell Mo I want to pitch in St. Louis, I'll take a hometown discount. And the Cardinals didn't even engage, didn't even talk to him. They didn't even call. And they could have had Max Scherzer for the last decade and missed out on that because they thought that they had people as good as or better than Scherzer.
This is the last thing this is a great text from 314. How did they average 88 wins over the last 10 years with an F and a C from the Pobos perspective?
And that's an F in terms of free agent signings. We didn't talk about the development and the young players coming up. They haven't been completely deficient. We're just talking about making deals where we gave them a C, and in terms of free agency, and especially big-time free agency. But if you look at some of the talent that they have brought up and guys that have had years for them, they have been pretty good. And by the way, for most of that time, they had a really good system. Think about this. They had a system one time where I think low A was Dan Billardella was their manager, high A was Ollie, double A was Schilt, triple A was Pop Warner. A lot of guys that are at the major league level right now were really good teachers and delivered winning baseball players to St. Louis from the minor league system. Well, all those guys graduate to the majors and you don't replace them effectively. And what do you get? You get what you got right now. All right, coming up, we've got a couple of your mic drops coming your way. And then John Denton at 9:15 here on 101 ESPN. Folks at Hoffman Brothers, their employees are at the heart of everything they do. And it's not just about showing up for work each day. It's about having a clear purpose. And at Hoffman Brothers, the mission is to improve life in every St. Louis area home. But what does that really mean? They aim to enhance the lives of customers by being reliable and professional and personable in every interaction. If you have those qualities and you're a plumber who is looking for a great place to work, you should get in touch with Hoffman Brothers at hoffmanbros.com because they're looking for licensed, serviced plumbers to join their winning team. The services they offer are from minor plumbing repairs to plumbing installations, water heater repairs and replacements and drains. They really do fantastic work at Hoffman Brothers, and they offer outstanding benefits, top pay in the industry, and you even have the potential for a sign-on bonus. Visit HoffmanBros.com to find out more information. It's a great St. Louis company, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. Get in touch with Hoffman Brothers by giving them a call, 314-664-3011, or find them on the web at Hoffman Bros, HOFFMANN, HoffmanBros.com.
The biggest stories of the day on the opening drive with a Rush Hour Reset.
Brought to you by James Carlton State Farm. Are your car and home insurance rates competitive?
Find out at carltoninsurance.net.
I'd be okay with a rebuild or retool or whatever you want to call it, but I would like the Cardinals to tell me, as a paying fan, what is their 1, 3, and 5 year plan? I want to hear some specifics because we hear all of these things that are probably going to happen, but I want to know what their direction is from the owner and the front office.
That is David here on 101 ESPN, and hopefully we'll hear some of that this afternoon. Brooke, we've had so many people that have, over the course of the last, especially the last few months, maybe the last year or so, they want the Cardinals to speak to them like Doug Armstrong does. And I don't think that's unreasonable when you ask for a 1, 3, 5 year plan. Doug Armstrong doesn't necessarily lay that out, but you can read the tea leaves and see what Doug Armstrong is trying to do. I think it is important now, especially since the Cardinals didn't sell 3 million tickets, and they are going into a period where it appears they're going to be out of the playoffs for a couple of years. What is the plan? I think that's something that you want to hear today.
I think that's really fair. Transparency, I think, is the biggest thing. And look, they are being transparent to the point of where they're saying there's an issue with our minor league system that we are recognizing in our player development side, and we're going to change that. So they have to be transparent today. You can't really make excuses for that. Hopefully, I would hope that they wouldn't make excuses for that. What could they say that could really excuse, I guess, the player development side?
They can't. They have to move forward. They can't look back. They have to move forward. But a few years ago, the New York Rangers sent a letter to their season ticket holders that said, look, we are going into a rebuild, and we probably aren't going to make the playoffs for a couple of years. But the rebuild worked, and now they're a Stanley Cup contender. And especially with the season ticket holders, I think that's what the Cardinals need to do is they have to say, bear with us during construction, and we will turn out a better product for you in the long term than we would have had we taken the path that we were taking, where we were paying a bunch of mid-30s guys a ton of money.
I think that when you're talking about transparency, I still go back to this quote from Derek Gould that I read earlier from the Post-Dispatch, and this is something that I think is really just hard to resonate with. And you're talking about the difference between Doug Armstrong and John Mosoloc. Obviously, totally different sports that we're talking about here, but I think what fans appreciate from Doug Armstrong is the transparency. We understand that you can't show all of your cards, right? But at least being honest about your plans and where your direction is. What's the vision for this moving forward? I feel like with the Blues, it's very clear what their plan is and what their plan is for the next few years. Don't you feel like that?
I feel like that. And we also know whether it's a show or not is immaterial. But we know that Doug Armstrong has a desire to be competitive, right?
Exactly.
When he says, if my mother ran that team, I'd still do the same thing. That's the sort of thing I want to hear from front offices.
That's something that resonates with fans. You understand the emotional element of it, right? You're talking to people not at people. And I think that that's the difference that people feel sometimes with John Mosoloc, is it feels like he's maybe trying to talk about their heads, maybe not being completely honest with his messages. I think this is a chance for them to show that this is something different, that they have a different vision, that they will be a little bit more transparent. It's just this quote just still sits with me, Randy, that I read earlier from the Post-Dispatch, where when he was asked about fans and people not showing up to games as much, he said, I do think that for 2 years in a row, getting off to a slow start in April has certainly had an adverse effect on our attendance.
Well, that probably is not wrong, but it's not the sole reason.
No.
I think having less than scintillating product, to put it kindly, has probably had some effect too. So let's get one more. This is Drew on 101 ESPN.
Randy, to answer your question, honestly, no, I would not be willing to take the next couple of years off to restructure and redo the front office and all that kind of thing if it meant that we're not going to be competitive. I'd honestly just rather them lie to me. Okay, I'm a huge Cardinal fan, and I want to go to the games. It's a big part of my family. Me and my wife, we go to several, probably a couple of dozen games a season, home games. No, lie to me. Tell me that we are competing for a championship every year, and then secretly do your thing in the front office to restructure whatever.
Okay, reasonable. Reasonable. Here's what I want to hear.
You need to take the knife and jam it through their eye into their brain and kill them.
That is what fans want to hear, that passion, because of what he just said. You are so emotionally invested as a fan. You're so emotionally invested as a fan. You give your time, your energy. You create traditions around this. It means so much to you, and it means a lot to spend your money on a team every single year. You're investing a lot emotionally and also financially with teams, and so it's hard when it feels like they're not actually talking to you or with you through this process of the plan, because you should be involved with the plan as a fan. You should have an idea of what direction the organization is going.
One more thing. I have a friend who's a great PR guy, was a PR guy for one of the biggest companies in America, and he keeps sending me texts about what the messaging should be. Here's how big, in a snapshot view, how big this press conference is for the Cardinals today. I have a friend whose parents have had Cardinals season tickets, all 162 games, or all 81 home games, for 40 years. They've had tickets since the 80s. And they're debating now box seats in the 100 section, 160s. They're debating whether or not to come back for 2025. And I would guess they're probably not the only ones. And I know the Cardinals lost a lot of season tickets last year to people that got City SC season tickets anyway. You need to sell, if you're the Cardinals, in my opinion, you need to sell those people that are on the fence, and you need to convince them to come back.
What could they say today, though, that would do that?
I think you need to lay out a plan and say, hey, 2025 might not be great. 2026, we're going to be on a trajectory to be back in the playoffs. And then 2020, you need to tell them that you're trying to win a World Series. And you give them a year that we expect to contend for a World Series again.
Is that what they're doing here? You really think that this plan?
Like he said, I want to be lied to. Tell me what.
I don't want to be lied to. I think that I want to be transparent with this plan. I don't think that
you have to make a plan and then be ready to try to win in 2027. And that plan has to kind of like you can't do it like the Orioles did, but you have to have an approach where you can be a World Series contender in 2027.
If they came out today and said something along the lines of that we will build back up where we have that pride in homegrown players, we'll have those talented homegrown players, arms, just positional players, everything like you have seen in years past, and we will make sure that we'll do whatever it takes to keep those homegrown players, will that be enough to get you to buy back in?
Homegrown players got to be better than they have been so far.
Yes.
That's the big thing for me. All right, coming up next, John Denton, MLB.com Cardinal beat writer on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's Randy. And when it comes time to sell your home, you need a reliable, experienced, and trusted real estate agent. Well, take it from me and get to know St. Louis real estate expert. It's Gloria Liu with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And here's why you should call her at 314-325-6888. Because Gloria's name is her promise, and it says it all. Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Gloria's mastered the home selling promise by guaranteeing upfront and in writing to sell your home at your agreed to price and time frame, or she'll buy it herself, and that's guaranteed. Does your agent compare? Gloria has solutions for every kind of home seller. If you want a fast sale with no hassles, Gloria has multiple cash offer programs that offer a great option. No showings, no costly repairs, and you pick the closing date. You always get the highest cash offer to choose from in minutes with Gloria Liu. Her number, 314-325-6888. You can find her on the web at gloriahasthebuyers.com. She's had hundreds of homes sold in just the past 12 months, and she can sell yours. As always, Gloria and seller must agree on price and possession date. To learn more, visit gloriahasthebuyers.com. Brooke Grimsley, Randy Karraker, and we head to the celebrity line now, and our friend John Denton, who covers the Cardinals for MLB.com, joins us. And it's really appreciated, John, coming home from San Francisco. We know you got a busy day today, so thank you so much, first of all, for joining us. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Randy. Thanks for having me.
All right, so what is your overall prevailing expectation for this afternoon's press conference?
Well, I think they're going to announce that John Mosoloc will honor the final year of his contract. We'll be back. Oliver Marmol, the manager, will return as well. Chaim Bloom is in line for a major promotion. Chaim, the past year, he's basically been evaluating the development side. He's going to take over that. The development side, he's going to try to revamp a farm system that, years ago was the envy of all of baseball, but it's fallen in disrepair. We can see it now. I mean, the players that the Cardinals pumped out regularly that kind of fueled that run from 2011 through 2015, those players aren't coming anymore. And when they get to the big leagues, they're not really panning out. So they're going to turn that side over to Chaim Bloom, who, most likely will take it over in 2025 after John Mosoloc steps away. I know this is not what most fans expected or what they even wanted, but, this is an organization that stands by their people. John Mosoloc has one more year. He's done a lot of good for this organization, so, they want to let him honor his contract, and, Oliver Marmol is going to get a chance to kind of take over this youth movement, and there's probably not going to be as many veterans around. I think Mo's going to spend the next 4 or 5 months trimming payroll, getting rid of long-term contracts, and then it's going to be Oliver Marmol's mission to build around this young core that they have.
Do you think that the expectation is for them, and I'm talking about their expectations internally, for the Major League club to still be competitive next year?
Yeah, Brooke, I think, they always want to be competitive. Now, what level? I don't think they're going to be a World Series contending team, but they're not going to just totally bottom out and tank. A couple examples of that. This club still wants Paul Goldschmidt back. He's going to be a free agent. They want him in that clubhouse. If they can get him on a 1 or 2 year deal, they would love to have him back. They want Andrew Kittredge back. I think from what I've heard, they want Keenan Middleton back, a guy who didn't even pitch for them at all this year, but has been such a good presence in that clubhouse. They want those veteran guys back because they want them around Jordan Walker, and they want them around Andre Palante and Matthew Liberatore, and helping those guys out every day. So they're not going to totally bottom out, but it wouldn't shock me at all if opening day, if there's no Sonny Gray here, if there's no Wilson Contreras here. Nolan Arenado is a totally different subject, but they're going to slash payroll. They're going to trim this thing down. They're not going to go rock bottom. They're still going to try to be competitive, but it's not going to look like the team that they fielded this year.
John, if we look at the playoff teams this year, let's just look at the division champions this year. They each have at least one superstar performer. Do the Cardinals, in your mind, on their roster have somebody that's capable of being a superstar performer in the next 2 or 3 years?
That's interesting, Randy. I still think that Nolan Gorman can be that guy. I still think that Jordan Walker has that type of potential, but they're going to have to improve miles and miles. Like Jackson Churio came up and is already a superstar. Mm-hmm. He struggled first, but the Brewers stuck by him, and the Cardinals didn't always do that with Jordan Walker. They panicked a little bit. They sent him down. If they bring up those top guys in the organization, if they bring up a Tink Hence, if they bring up a Quinn Matthews, you got to weather some storms and not panic and send the guy back down the way they have in the past. I know St. Louis expects to win every night, and there's pressure to win every night here, but you have to stand by those young kids. You can't shuttle them back and forth to the minor leagues. Just look at what the Padres did with Jackson Merrill. Look at what the Brewers did with Jackson Churio. I mean, they stood by those guys when they wobbled early, and now they're arguably the best players on those teams because their talent was allowed to blossom. So, do they have a superstar right now? No, but could Tink Hence get there? Could Quinn Matthews get there? Could Jordan Walker, Nolan Arenado? I think they could get to a certain degree a star level.
So you mentioned there, you were talking about Paul Goldschmidt. You believe that he will return. But what about maybe some of the other players? Because I'm sure you saw Bob Nightingale's reporting that they're looking at shopping Sonny Gray this offseason. Sonny Gray, is he a possibility to be on the move? Is there some other players that you think might be on the move?
Yeah, I think those are definitely the type of contracts that they're maybe looking to get out from under. They know that the only way for their young players to blossom is to really kind of become the focal point. And, they've got to find, 30 starts for Andre Palante, and they've got to find a bigger role for Matthew Liberatore, who still has so much talent. So, yes, I do think I think that's going to be John Mosoloc's number one priority over the next 4 to 5 months. It's going to be, see what you can get for Sonny Gray, see what you can get for Wilson Contreras. And this one's going to hit fans hard. See what you can get for Ryan Helsley. His value is never higher than it is right now. He's about to get a big raise in arbitration. After that, he's going to get a big raise in free agency. If you're going to be a team that's going to be around 81, I'm not so sure you need a closer. If you can turn him into 3 prospects, you probably look to do that. So, it's going to be painful. It's going to be, fans are going to see what they get back for some of these guys, and they're going to cringe. But I would say that's likely coming over the next 4 months.
John, I started the show this morning by suggesting that the Cardinal model of the past is not going to take place. The Cardinal model, when they were rolling, of bringing up kids and then supplementing them with more expensive players. I would suggest that the Cardinals probably are headed more towards the Tampa model, where you don't have or keep expensive players. Do you think that is realistic, what I've heard?
Yeah, Randy, that's Hein Bloom. He kind of patterned that. He created that model, and kept Tampa competitive by doing exactly that. We saw it a little bit this year with what the Cardinals did with Tommy Edman. You buy out the last year of his arbitration, the last 2 years of his arbitration, and you kind of send him on his way before you have to pay him. They're probably going to do that with a couple other players, but I think they're going to get out of the business of these big money deals for at least a year or two. I'm not saying they won't go back and do that once they get their young core built up. Then I think the Cardinals will add to that core where they'll go out and supplement it with big free agents. But they've gotten to the point where they're too reliant on the free agents and not strong enough on the player development side. You got to have both of those to make it work, because one without the other, it's never going to work.
So last offseason, the theme was veteran leadership, and they did just that. They brought in a lot of veteran players to help the club. This year, it seems like the theme is going to be youth development. And just going back to the player development side, you mentioned that the Cardinals used to be the envy of so many other teams on how they were able to, one, really grow and develop their players, but also, two, the way that they were able to get the most out of those players on the developing side. How did it get to this point? Then the past few years, you hear about the coaching staff and you see the numbers of the reduced size there, and we're talking about player development if they're getting the most out of them. How did we get to this point in the organization where you do have to focus now your off season and things moving forward on building back up the player development?
Yeah, Brooke, think about it. The theory is as old as time, all the way back to the Roman Empire. Like, empires rot from within. Like, they eat their young, and this is how dynasties collapse. Like, we're seeing it now with the Boston Red Sox. We're seeing it a little bit, the beginning of it, with the 49ers. Like, you cut corners here, you spend more money in free agency than you do in development. That's how it happens. 2011 through 15, they had the Memphis Mafia, Daniel Scalzo and David Freese and John Jay, and it was a pipeline of good player after good player after good player who were coming up to the Cardinals, and that's just not happening anymore. So, they've got to go back and fix the root of the problem, because, like we said, you can go out and add all the big money free agents you want, but if you don't have a pipeline of young talent coming to supplement that, it does no good. You're wasting your money. So they've got to go to the core of this and fix it. They've got to add staff. They've got to add technology. Hein Bloom was a master of doing that at Tampa. That's what got him the job in Boston. So you're going to see more exposure for him, more responsibility for him, and it's ultimately going to come down to whether they can get the farm system back to where it was, in those early 2000s.
John Denton, you always have great information for us. Thank you very much, and we will see you this afternoon.
All right, guys. Sounds great.
Appreciate it. Take care. That's John Denton. Covers the Cardinals for MLB.com. Just go to Cardinals.com and you can hear and read John's work.
It is really interesting, though, that how we got to this point. That is my big question, is who decided? I understand during COVID times, every single business was going leaner, but then a lot of the businesses realized after COVID times, we have to hire those jobs back. Why did the Cardinals not do the same?
Well, I think it's twofold. Number one, that's a big part of it. But I think the bigger part of it is the Cardinals had this wealth of coaches that were part of the Cardinal way, that kind of grew up with the way the system was implemented by George Kissel and Tony La Russa and even Joe Torre and Whitey. And all of a sudden, you have Pop Warner go to the major leagues. You have Brian Eversger go to the major leagues. You have Dave Ricketts pass away. You have Mike Schultz go to the major leagues. You have Stubby Clapp go to the major leagues. And you never effectively replaced those coaches and managers with high-quality coaches and managers at the minor league level. So the Cardinals had this great teaching system, and then all of a sudden the guys are here, and there's nobody that is down there teaching those guys, A, how to coach, or B, the players, how to play. And then Schilt gets fired, and you lose your minor league coordinator, Mark DeJohn, who was probably the most important part of the whole thing, and you lose so much quality coaching. And then you have a lot of franchises, when players are drafted, they have multiple people to work with young players. Cardinals have one in Jose Oquendo down in Florida. And so I think you lost a lot of quantity and quality with people graduating to the major league level that you never effectively replaced in the minors.
Yeah, that was a lot of quality and quantity that you lost there.
Yeah. So these guys were good teachers at the minor league level, but it just hasn't worked out here. And that's just a snippet. I mean, you go back to losing Brent Strom, who's been the pitching coach for a couple of World Series teams. He was a big part of it. You lose a lot of brain power in terms of bringing people into the organization. Mike Elias, who's now the general manager in Baltimore. Sig Medall, who's his assistant in Baltimore. Jeff Luno was a big part of it. Chris Correa, who got arrested and wound up going to jail. He was a good baseball guy. And so they've just had a lot of brain drain from this organization over the last decade plus.
Another thing that he said that was just really surprising to me is Paul Goldschmidt returning, because, of course, Katie Woo has the report that he will not be returning next season. Of course, things can change a lot, but would you be surprised if they bring back Paul Goldschmidt? Because if we're going with the youth movement, I value Goldie, so it's nothing against him, but what is the point of bringing him back if we are doing the youth movement?
I think that's the big thing, is what's the point of spending that money again? It's great to have guys that have been around and bring cachet and might eventually wear a red jacket. But Katie's got multiple sources telling her that Goldie and the Cardinals are parting ways. So I would think that that's probably the case. And that was my sense a couple of weeks ago in talking to people in the front office, that they were ready to pull the plug on that because of what you're talking about. What's the point of spending all that money if you aren't going to win with it?
Exactly.
That's Brooke. I'm Randy. Coming up, we've got a couple of NFL highlights and lowlights on 101 ESPN. Hey, kids, I want you to know about what's going on with the Schnucks Rewards program. Doesn't everybody love a sweet treat on their birthday? If you have an October birthday coming up, you need to get that Schnucks Rewards app, because Schnucks wants to celebrate their Schnucks Rewards members' birthdays with a free, freshly baked donut on your birthday. It's part of the all-new personalized perks in the Schnucks Rewards app. To get the free donut, all you have to do is add your birthday to your rewards profile in the Schnucks Rewards app. When your birthday rolls around, just clip the free donut coupon in the Schnucks Rewards app and redeem the coupon at checkout. The coupon is good for your entire birthday week, so no worries if you can't make it into the store on your day. Just make sure you get your birthday freebie by downloading the Schnucks Rewards app and adding your birthday to your profile today. The Schnucks Rewards app gives you 2% back on every single purchase you make at Schnucks. All you have to do is punch in your phone number. It's easy as can be. When you want to save some money on groceries and get a free donut for your birthday, it's all about the Schnucks Rewards app.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Cardinals finish up their season 83-79, but the big news is today's press conference coming to you right here on 101 ESPN at 2 p.m. with the Cardinals front office talking about the changes being made in the future. Also, over the weekend, St. Louis City SC was in action. They were eliminated from the playoffs officially when Minnesota United won their game, but they did walk away with a victory in the Derby Q as they took down Sporting Kansas 3-1. NFL football, Monday Night Football on 101 ESPN tonight. 6:30 is your pregame for the Lions and Seahawks, the second of the two doubleheaders tonight. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Time for some quick NFL highlights and lowlights here on the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brooke, what do you got?
For my low light, I'm going to go with the Jets and Broncos game. That entire game was absolutely horrid. 10-9 was the final score in that one. Ew. It's a game that makes you go, cringe a lot, especially if you're looking at the Jets offense. They scored no touchdowns, settling for 3 field goals. If you were guessing based on the score, that is exactly what happened. There was a lot of self-inflicted mistakes, Randy, that were in that game that led to those offensive woes. And of course, people want to point some fingers. Now, it's really interesting because following the game, Jets head coach Robert Saleh said that the cadence on offense was an issue, and Aaron Rodgers was asked to respond to Saleh's comments on that.
It's one way to do it. The other way is hold them accountable. I mean, we haven't had an issue. We've had one false start. Morgan had one false start, I believe, until this. So it's been a weapon. We use it every day in practice. We rarely have a false start. And to have, 5 today, it seemed like 4 or 5. Yeah, it seems like an outlier. I don't know if we need to make mass changes based on, kind of an outlier game.
They had 5 false start penalties, and as expected, Rodgers didn't exactly agree with his head coach when he was asked about those remarks about cadence, because obviously that kind of points to, or maybe you could insinuate that that's a little bit on Aaron Rodgers. Are you surprised that Aaron Rodgers would maybe have some issues with that?
Not at all. No, if he doesn't agree, he's not going to be shy about it. He's going to say, hey, maybe just hold people accountable, which I think is reasonable to ask your head coach to do, to hold people accountable. Don't blame Aaron Rodgers' hard count. How many touchdowns has his team scored over the years because of his hard count drawing people off sides?
Exactly.
But his offensive linemen need to be able to hold their water. Brooke, my low light is the greatest Jacksonville Jaguars team ever assembled falling to 0-4. Trevor Lawrence leading them on a 7-play, 74-yard scoring drive to score a touchdown with 4 minutes left and give their team a 20-17 victory. It was a 4-minute drive, and they scored with 6:16 left. But C.J. Stroud leads the Texans on a drive, and they score with 18 seconds left. A touchdown pass from C.J. Stroud to Dare Ogunbowale, and Houston wins it. They improved to 3-1. And poor Trevor Lawrence. He was 18 of 33 for 169, couple of touchdowns and a sack, and he just can't get it going for Jacksonville. His best opportunity to win a game this year, and the defense for Jacksonville still couldn't hold up. And now you got to wonder, and I know a lot of people have wondered before, I have, whether or not Trevor Lawrence is ever going to be able to do it in the NFL. If he's only able to generate 20 points in this game, and it's just not happening for him this way with Doug Peterson, is it ever going to happen for Trevor Lawrence?
Did you see that Doug Peterson was actually shocked when a reporter asked about his job security in the postgame?
Yeah.
He couldn't be that shocked. Of course, people are going to think about that because how much money did the Jags spend on this Trevor Lawrence contract?
Yeah, $275.
Yeah, they're going to figure out a way to make that work, and if they will try, I assume, a head coaching change here.
I would think that might be in the offing.
But I think it's a fair question when you bring up Trevor Lawrence specifically. I think a lot of people are expecting a lot more from him, and we have seen more from him.
Yeah, but just not now. Highlights.
So my highlight, real quick, Derrick Henry
Ooh.
Justin Herbert's Elevator Club was absolutely buzzing this weekend. If you had Derrick Henry on your fantasy football team like I did, you were ecstatic. There was a lot of people who pointed and laughed at us, Randy, when we picked Derrick Henry to be on our fantasy football team. And I'm talking about me specifically because I used a very high pick to get Derrick Henry, and some people said, why in the world would you do that? This man spends over $200,000 on his body every single year to maintain it, Randy. That is why Derrick Henry absolutely showed up for the Ravens. 24 carries for 209 total yards and 2 touchdowns. That 87-yarder, Randy, was
fantastic.
Beautiful. All hail King Henry. By the way, did you know that touchdown run was the longest run in Ravens franchise history?
Wow.
He also holds the Titans record for the longest touchdown run in Titans history. That 99-yarder, remember, for the Titans, tying Tony Dorsett's NFL record. The Ravens needed that. They beat the Bills, and that won 35-10. But King Henry, all hail him. I am still a fan of him, Randy. Even though he's not with the Titans anymore, I'm still a fan of him.
And he is with Herbert's Elevator Club. And by the way, looks like they have a pretty substantial lead over Matthews' expert team. 132-96 is the lead right now. Brooke, my highlight is a guy that last year at this time, we were saying, we hate this guy, Jaden Daniels, as he, by himself, beat Mizzou as a member of the LSU Tigers. Now he's beating everybody by himself as a member of the Washington Commanders. Yesterday, 26 of 30 against the Cardinals for 233 and a score. And in his first 4 games as Washington Commander, he has the highest completion percentage in the history of the league for his first 4 games. 82% completion rate for Jaden Daniels. He is the odds-on favorite for Rookie of the Year, and nobody would be surprised now if the Washington Commanders would wind up winning the NFC East. So Jaden Daniels is a highlight, pulling the Washington Commanders out of the abyss.
I told you guys last week, steal of the draft.
Yep.
Steal the draft. And Dan Quinn and the Commanders coaching staff deserve a lot of credit for what they've been able to do to make sure that he's in a position to succeed. We talk about that all the time. Are you giving your young rookie quarterback the right tools to succeed? Because we knew, you mentioned it, you saw him in the SEC. You knew that Jaden Daniels was talented, but how many times have we seen that talent get wasted in the NFL because they're not set up in the right situation, don't have the right coaching staff around them to really elevate them?
So, interestingly, the next 2 games for the Commanders, they have the Cleveland Browns next week at noon, and then after that, they go to Baltimore to take on Derrick Henry and the Ravens. So that'll be a fun one. A little, what do they call the area where Washington, D.C. and I forget the 3 letters. It's some acronym. But whatever it is, the Ravens and the Commanders.
I have no idea.
Well, we'll figure
it's
it out.
It's not coming to my brain
DMV?
currently.
DMV, there you go.
Oh,
yeah. DC, Maryland,
yes.
Virginia.
Yeah, that's
of course. Okay.
So
I know this.
The lowlights and highlights from this weekend in the NFL. Coming up next, we've got some tickets to give away. We've got rock and roll on 101 ESPN.
Elevate your performance. Pure Performance is your one-stop shop for all aftermarket modifications. Known for their top
Hey, Chesterfield Fence and Deck has been around for 56 years in St. Louis, and you don't stay around that long unless you're doing your job the right way. And at Chesterfield Fence and Deck, whether they're putting up a cedar or vinyl fence, or whether they're putting in maybe a cedar or a beautiful vinyl Vecca deck, or doing a sunroom or a screen room or a pergola, when they do it at Chesterfield Fence and Deck, they do it right. You can give them a call right now at 800-300-4054, or you can find them on the web at chesterfieldfence.com. And when you go to Chesterfield Fence and Deck, you're going to get a great product. They're A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. They have fantastic looking products, and everything is guaranteed by a 5-year labor warranty and multiple material warranties as well. I love my fence from Chesterfield Fence and Deck, and I think you'll really enjoy working with them. They're good people. They'll come out to your house, provide a free, no obligation project design, and if you want any project done, you're going to love working with them. And get 48 months interest-free financing. When you mention this show, when you go to Chesterfield Fence and Deck on the web at chesterfieldfence.com, call 800-300-4054. Chesterfield Fence and Deck, the sign. You have the very best.
I want to rock! And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
The opening drive has your shot right now to score a pair of tickets to see Thomas Rhett on Saturday, June 7th at Hollywood Casino Amphitheater.
Thomas Rhett.
Text into 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO to win free tickets to the show. Tickets for Thomas Rhett on sale. Find all the ticket details and the bonus chance to register to win at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 app. Brooke, you're from Tennessee. How big of a country guy is Thomas Rhett?
He's really big.
Okay.
He's very popular.
I figured June 7th. That's ways away.
It is ways away.
We are preparing here for
I went to
Thomas
his
Rhett.
concert earlier this year, and it was really good. It's worth it.
Let's see. We've got October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. We got 8 months before.
You have time to plan for this.
Yes, you do.
Do you go to country music concerts?
Not ordinarily, no. I do not. I need to.
Is there any country music that you're a fan of?
Oh, yeah. George Strait.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, old school.
You like real country
old
music.
School. Oh, yeah, big time.
Not this new hip-hop kind of pop country music.
No. I don't need that, no. So, do we have a question for Thomas Rhett tickets, Matthew?
I had one, but we're actually going to change it because some very sad news just came across across my Twitter. And so, in the honor of one of the greatest to ever play in the NBA, we're going to do a trivia question about him, as the NBA has just announced that, unfortunately, Basketball Hall of Famer Dikembe Mutombo has passed away at the age of 58 from brain cancer. Mutombo was simply larger than life on the court. He was one of the greatest shot blockers and defensive players in the history of the NBA. Off the floor, he poured his heart and soul into helping others. They talk about how he was the first worldwide ambassador for the NBA, and there was no one better for it. The WAG, Dikembe Mutombo passes away at 58. And so, to win those tickets, very simple. What team did he appear in an NBA Finals with?
All right, there you go.
I'll never forget the WAG.
The WAG is great. It's a Geico ad.
Absolute monster of a man. God, I love Dikembe Mutombo.
Yeah, me too. Hashtag sad.
Very
All
sad.
right, so texter number 55 in honor of Dikembe. All right, we've got the press conference coming up at 2 o'clock. What's your main question, Brooke?
Main question is, what happened?
I think that's a great question to ask.
It really can go any direction,
Yeah.
Randy, is what happened?
I think that's a great question, and I think it needs to be answered.
Yes, a very fair question, and we already heard yours earlier, but I think it's a very fair one. And you said it more eloquently than what I would say, but it just kind of reduced to what you were talking about. You basically said what would sell fans to come back for next season.
How would you try to sell fans to buy tickets? You've got a commercial right now, so give us a sales pitch on tickets for 2025. Great job today by our producer, audio, video engineer, the one, the only Matthew Rocchio. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
Brooke, did you have fun today?
I did.
Good. And congratulations, by the way, on Derrick Henry. Do we have a game for you tonight? Do we have some Titans going?
Lions Seahawks.
We do have the Titans going, and that's why it wasn't my highlight or my low light, Randy, because they haven't either embarrassed or made me happy yet.
Okay, they will tonight, though. And we have Lions and Seahawks for you. Pregame at 6:30 tonight here on 101 ESPN. We've got a balloon party with T-Mac and Ajax coming up. We thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show. For all of us, until tomorrow morning at 7, have a magnificent Monday, everyone.